How do you believe in something when every physical sense, every rational thought, and every logical conclusion screams that it's impossible? This is the greatest mystery and yet holds the key to mastering your world. Imagine, if you will, standing before a massive wall of facts, cold, hard facts that tell you what you desire cannot be. Perhaps it's a medical report with undeniable statistics, a bank statement showing insufficient funds, or circumstances that appear permanently fixed against your desires. Your reason says, this is impossible. Yet I tell you, this very moment, that the impossible is the unrecognized expression of a higher law. Let me share with you a story of one of my students. She came to me with tears in her eyes, clutching medical reports that stated she would never bear children. 3 specialists had confirmed it, and her rational mind accepted this as her reality. But she dared to do something remarkable. She dared to live in the end. Every night, as she drifted off to sleep, she felt the wake of a baby in her arms. She heard the soft croos, felt the gentle breathing, experienced the warmth of holding her child. Her senses denied it, her doctors denied it, the world denied it, but she persisted in her assumption. Today, she cradles not an imaginary child, but her flesh and blood daughter. How? By understanding that what we call reality is simply the outer picture of accepted beliefs. You see, your logical mind is both your greatest ally and your most formidable opponent. It's designed to keep you safe, to process what it knows, to rely on past experiences and current evidence. But I tell you this, your logical mind deals only with shadows, with reflections of past beliefs. It knows nothing of the creative power that dwells within you. Consider this: everything in your world, from the chair you're sitting on not to the most advanced technology, was once seemed impossible. It was once merely a thought, an idea that reason denied could ever be manifest. The Wright brothers were told human flight was impossible. The concept of instantaneous global communication was once considered madness. Every medical breakthrough, every technological advancement, every human achievement began as something reason denied. The secret lies in understanding that your consciousness, your awareness of being, precedes all evidence. Think of it this way: when you enter a dark room and flip the switch, do you doubt that light will flood the space? No, you have absolute confidence in this outcome based on countless experiences. Yet, if you had never seen electricity or its effects, such an expectation would seem foolish, impossible. Your current desires, your goals, your aspirations, they are no different from that light switch. The only difference is your level of conviction. Now, let me share with you the fundamental principles that will enable you to believe despite all contrary evidence. First, understand that your consciousness is the only reality. Everything you see in your world, simply consciousness pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every condition is simply your consciousness objectified. This means that your current situation, no matter how seemingly solid, is nothing more than a shadow of past beliefs. The second principle is this: the future is created twice, first in your consciousness, and then in your world of effects. Most people wait for circumstances to change before they believe in the desire's fulfillment. This is like waiting for a reflection in the mirror to smile before you do. It's backward thinking, and it keeps you bound to current circumstances. Instead, you must dare to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, regardless of apparent contradictions. If you desire financial abundance, you must capture and maintain the feeling of wealth, security, and generosity, even as your bank account shows otherwise. If you seek perfect health, you must live from the assumption of vibrant well-being, even as current symptoms persist. This is not denial, this is a correct use of your creative power. But how, you might ask, can one maintain such a belief in the face of contrary evidence? The secret lies in your ability to lose yourself in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you go to sleep at night, do you doubt that the sun will rise tomorrow? Of course not. You have absolute faith in this natural law. Similarly, you must cultivate that same level of certainty in your desired end. Let me share with you a profound technique that I've seen transform countless lives. When you lie down to sleep tonight, instead of rehearsing your problems or reviewing your day, create a simple scene that would imply your desire is already fulfilled. Make it short, make it clear, and make it natural. Perhaps it's a friend congratulating you on your achievement. Maybe it's looking at your bank statement with a sense of satisfaction. Whatever your desire, create a scene that would naturally occur if your wish were realized. Now here's the crucial part that most miss. You must enter the scene fully. Don't watch it like a movie. Be the protagonist in your own drama. Feel the handshake, hear the words, experience the emotions that would accompany your fulfilled desire. Your rational mind would protest, will present evidence of impossibility, will remind you of past failures. But remember that your present circumstances are nothing more than the harvest of seeds planted in your past. They have no power to determine your future unless you give them that power through your attention and belief. I recall a gentleman who attended my lectures years ago. He was facing bankruptcy, his business crumbling around him. Every financial advisor, every market indicator, every rational assessment predicted his complete ruin. But he grasped this principle, and every night, in his imagination, he would sit at his desk, looking at his books, feeling the relief and satisfaction of his business thriving. His accountant thought him delusional, his partners thought him in denial, but he persisted in his assumption. Within 6 months, a series of coincidences, though I tell you there are no coincidences, transformed his business completely. You see, the world is not operating the way your senses suggest. Your senses show you effects, while your imagination deals with causes. When you change the cause, your conscious assumption, the effects must follow, for this is law. It's not hope. It's not positive thinking. It's not mere wishful thinking. It's the deliberate use of the creative power within you. Figure it this way: your consciousness is like a garden, and your assumptions are the seeds you plant. Your current circumstances are merely the harvest of past planting. If you don't like what you're harvesting, you must change what you're planting. But here's the vital point: you don't wait until you see the new crop before you believe in it. The farmer plants with absolute faith in the harvest, even though no evidence of that harvest exists at the time of planting. The key to maintaining your belief in the face of contrary evidence lies in understanding time. Your physical senses are bound by time. They can only report what is. But your imagination is not bound by time. In your imagination, you can be and do and have any heating desire. When you've lived from the end, when you persistently occupy the state of your wish fulfilled, you're actually experiencing your future now. This is why I tell you that what you desire already exists in what I call the fourth dimensional world of consciousness. Let me give you a practical example. Suppose you desire a promotion at work, but all evidence suggests it's impossible. There are no openings, you lack certain qualifications, others have more seniority. Instead of accepting these facts, you create a scene implying the promotion is yours. Perhaps it's as simple as hearing a colleague congratulate you or signing documents with your new title. You enter this scene every night, feeling its naturalness, experiencing the satisfaction and pride that would be yours. Now your rational mind will present all the reasons this cannot be. It will remind you of your lack of qualifications, the competition, the economic climate. This is where most people falter. They give power to these facts and abandon their assumption. But I tell you this, those very facts that seem so solid, so unchangeable, are nothing more than shadows of past beliefs. They have no power to create or prevent, except that which you give them through your attention and belief. Consider for a moment the nature of your own faults and beliefs. Every limitation you cannot experience, every obstacle you face was first detected in your consciousness before it became a physical fact. The outer world is dead, passive, and purely mechanical. It has no power to create, to alter, or to sustain itself. It merely reflects, with mathematical precision, the beliefs held in consciousness. Let me share another extraordinary example that illustrates this principle perfectly. A woman in my audience once approached me, devastated by a relationship that had ended. Every attempt at reconciliation had failed, and all external evidence suggested it was truly over. Instead of accepting this reality, she began to sleep in the assumption that they were happily together. In her imagination, she felt his presence beside her, heard his breathing, experienced the warmth of their connection. Her friends called her delusional, her family urged her to face reality, but she persisted in her assumption. Now, watch this carefully. She didn't try to make it happen in the external world. She didn't pursue him, didn't scheme or plan. She simply lived in the end, feeling the naturalness of being with him. Within weeks, through a series of events that no one could have predicted or orchestrated, they were reunited. The external circumstances rearranged themselves to match her internal assumption. This is the law I'm revealing to you tonight. The external world must conform to your sustained internal assumptions. But remember, these must be assumptions, not mere wishes or hopes. When you assume something, you live from it, you think from it, you act naturally from it. If you won $1 million, you wouldn't constantly think about having won it. You would simply live from that state of abundance. This is how you must treat your desire, live from it, not toward it. The question then becomes, how do you maintain this assumption when your senses frame otherwise? The secret lies in understanding that your senses can only show you what is, never what can be. They are limited to reporting the effects of past assumptions. Adieu. The conscious being that you are, operate in the realm of infinite possibilities. Think of it like this. Imagine you're in a dark room with a flashlight. Whatever you point to being, that's what becomes visible to you. Your attention is like that flashlight beam. Whatever you focus on expands in your experience. When you consistently focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you're literally illuminating that reality into existence. But here's where most people stumble. They try to believe in their desire while simultaneously looking for evidence of its fulfillment. This divided mind, this double vision, prevents the manifestation of their desire. You must be bold enough to completely ignore the evidence of your senses when it contradicts your desire. This doesn't mean denying current circumstances. It means knowing they are transient, knowing they must change to conform to your new assumption. Remember, the feeling is the secret. Not the physical sensation, but the feeling of naturalness, the feeling of already being what you want to be. When something is natural to you, you don't think about it constantly. You don't wonder if it's possible. You simply are it. This is the state you must capture and maintain regarding your desire. Let me give you a practical technique for this. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, ask yourself this question. How would I feel if my desire were ready for truth? Then capture that feeling. Don't just think about it, feel it. Feel the relief, the satisfaction, the joy, the naturalness of having what you desire. Fall asleep in this feeling. Your logical mind may protest, may present all the reasons why this is impossible. Thank it for its concern, but persist in your assumption. What you're doing in these moments before sleep is accessing the most powerful creative state available to you. In that drowsy state between waking and sleeping, your rational mind's resistance is lowest and your subconscious mind is most receptive. This is why I emphasize the importance of your last 5 minutes of consciousness before sleep. These moments are golden opportunities to impress your desire upon the subconscious mind. Now, let me address something that many struggle with. The interval of time between planting your seed and seeing its manifestation. This is where your faith will be tested most severely. The temptation will be to check constantly for signs of manifestation, to dig up your seed to see if it's growing. But just as a farmer doesn't dig up his seeds to check their progress, you must not constantly check for evidence of your desire's fulfillment. Instead, Rest in the absolute knowing that what you have assumed must materialize. The how and when are not your concern. Your only task is to maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The external world will rearrange itself to match your assumption through bridge of incidents that you could not possibly orchestrate or predict.
Good evening, my friends. Tonight, I am going to resolve one of the greatest paradoxes in manifestation. Tonight, I am going to show you how to let go of your desire without giving up on your desire. This confuses nearly everyone who studies the law. They hear let go and they think it means stop wanting. They hear detach and they think it means stop caring. They hear surrender and they think it means give up. But this is not what letting go means. Not at all. Tonight you will learn the difference between letting go and giving up. You will learn how to release your desperate grip on your desire while simultaneously remaining absolutely faithful to your assumption. You will learn how to detach from the outcome while staying completely committed to the state. This is the paradox. And when you understand it, when you truly grasp how to let go without giving up, manifestation becomes effortless. Let me first show you what happens when you hold on too tightly to your desire. You want something desperately. You think about it constantly. You check for signs obsessively. You analyze every circumstance, every synchronicity, every moment, trying to see if it is working. You wake up in the morning and immediately think, is it here yet? Has it manifested? Let me check my bank account. Let me see if there are any signs. Throughout your day, your mind returns to your desire again and again. When will it come? How will it come? What if it doesn't come? Am I doing this right? Maybe I need to visualize more. Maybe I need to affirm more. Your desire consumes you. It dominates your thoughts. It creates anxiety, desperation, and constant vigilance. This is holding on too tightly. And holding on too tightly is the very thing that pushes your desire away. Why? Because desperate holding comes from lack. It comes from the state of not having. It comes from fear that if you do not hold on tightly enough, your desire will slip away. But your desire cannot slip away. It already exists in consciousness. The only thing preventing it from manifesting is your desperate grasping, which affirms that you do not have it. Think of it like holding sand. When you grip sand tightly in your fist, trying desperately to hold every grain, what happens? The sand slips through your fingers. The tighter you grip, the more you lose. But when you relax your hand, when you let go of the desperate grip, the sand rests peacefully in your open palm. This is the paradox. Holding on tightly pushes away. Letting go allows manifestation. Now, before I teach you how to let go, let me be clear about what giving up looks like, because you must understand the difference. Giving up means abandoning your desire entirely, deciding it is not possible for you, accepting lack as your permanent reality, returning to the old state of consciousness, living as though you will never have what you want. Giving up is resignation. It is defeat. It is saying, I wanted this, but I cannot have it, so I will stop trying. Giving up comes from disbelief. It comes from the assumption that the law does not work, that your desire is impossible, that you are not worthy or capable of having what you want. This is not what I am teaching you tonight. Giving up is not the answer. Giving up keeps you trapped in lack. What I am teaching you is something completely different. I am teaching you to let go while remaining in the state, to release the desperate grip while holding the assumption, to surrender the how and when while staying faithful to the what. Letting go means releasing your desperate attachment to how and when your desire will manifest. It means trusting consciousness to deliver your desire without needing to control every detail. It means resting in the state of the wish fulfilled without anxiously monitoring whether it is working. Let me break this down. When you hold on too tightly, you have very specific ideas about how your desire must manifest. The money must come through my job. They must call me first. The healing must happen through this specific treatment. You are not just assuming the end. You are trying to dictate the bridge. You are trying to control the path consciousness uses to deliver your desire. This creates resistance. Why? because you are limiting infinite consciousness to your finite ideas about possibility. Letting go of the how means I know I have my desire in consciousness. I do not know how it will manifest in physical form, and I do not need to know. Consciousness will build the bridge. My job is to stay in the state. This is trust. This is faith. This is letting go without giving up. When you hold on too tightly, you become obsessed with timing. Why hasn't it happened yet? It's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 months. It's been 2 years. When will it finally manifest? You are measuring, calculating, worrying about time. And every moment you spend anxious about when is a moment you spend in the state of not having. Letting go of the when means, I have my desire now in consciousness. The physical manifestation will appear at the perfect time. I do not need to know when. I simply know it is done. This is patience, not passive waiting but active trust. You are not waiting for your desire. You are resting in your desire, knowing the shadow will appear when the light is ready. You must let go of the need. This is perhaps the most important aspect of letting go. When you hold on too tightly, you need your desire to feel complete. You need it to feel happy. You need it to feel worthy. You need it to feel like your life has meaning. This need is the problem. Why? Because need comes from lack. When you need something, you are affirming you do not have it. You are dwelling in the state of incompleteness, and consciousness creates from the state you dwell in. Letting go of the need means, I have my desire in consciousness, and that fulfills me now. I do not need the physical manifestation to feel complete. I am already complete. The physical manifestation is simply the icing on the cake. This is the ultimate detachment, not detachment from the desire itself, but detachment from needing the physical form to feel fulfilled. When you truly let go without giving up, you enter a very specific state of consciousness. I call it peaceful certainty. Not anxious hoping, not desperate grasping, not fearful watching, but peaceful certainty. You are certain your desire is yours. This certainty is unshakable. You know it the way you know your own name. There is no doubt, but you are also peaceful. You are not consumed by it. You are not checking constantly. You are not desperate for it to appear. You are simply resting in the knowing that it is done. Now let me teach you the practical method for letting go without giving up. Step 1. Establish your assumption firmly. Before you can let go, you must first establish what you are not letting go of. You are not letting go of your desire. You are not letting go of your assumption. You are not letting go of the state of the wish fulfilled. You are letting go of the desperate grip, the anxious checking, the obsessive monitoring. So first, firmly establish your assumption. I have my desire. It is done in consciousness. This is absolute fact. Feel this, know this, settle into this with complete certainty. Only when you have truly assumed your desire can you let go of the anxiety around it. Step 2. Recognize what is already done. Remind yourself in consciousness, my desire is already accomplished. There is nothing more I need to do to create it. It exists. It is mine. The work is complete. This recognition is crucial. When you understand the work is already done in consciousness, you realize there is nothing to anxiously hold on to. You are not holding on to a possibility. You are resting in a reality. Step 3. Release the timeline. Say to yourself, I do not know when this will manifest in physical form, and I do not need to know. Time is irrelevant. In consciousness, it is already done. The physical manifestation will appear at the perfect moment. Then stop counting days. Stop measuring time. Stop asking when. The when is none of your concern. Your concern is the state. Occupy the state, and let time take care of itself. Step 4. Release the pathway. Say to yourself, I do not know how this will manifest, and I do not need to know. Consciousness will build the bridge. Opportunities I cannot foresee will appear. Circumstances I cannot imagine will align. I trust the process completely. Then stop trying to figure out the how. Stop planning the path. Stop limiting consciousness to your ideas about possibility. Let consciousness surprise you with the how. Step 5. Find fulfillment in the state itself. This is the key to true detachment. Find your satisfaction not in the physical manifestation, but in the state of consciousness. When you can feel wealthy in consciousness and be satisfied with that feeling even before the money appears, you have let go of the need. When you can feel loved in consciousness and be complete in that feeling even before the person appears, you have let go of the desperate grasping. The physical manifestation becomes a bonus, a pleasant confirmation rather than a necessity for your happiness. Step 6. Live your life fully. Here is how you know you have let go. You can think about your desire without obsessing over it. You can go hours or even days without checking for signs. You can engage fully in your present life while your desire manifests behind the scenes. Letting go means you return to living, not waiting, not watching, not hoping. Living. You go to work. You enjoy hobbies. You spend time with friends. You engage with the present moment. Your desire is settled in consciousness, and you trust it is working itself out while you live your life. This is the paradox. The more you can live as though you do not desperately need your desire, the faster it manifests. Why? Because living fully is the state of having, not the state of lacking. This concept of letting go without giving up is what I call the Sabbath. In the Bible, God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. The rest was not laziness or abandonment. The rest was knowing the work was complete. When you assume your desire, when you plant the seed in consciousness, you have done your work. The seed is planted. Now you rest. Resting does not mean giving up. It means trusting that the seed will grow without you anxiously digging it up every day to check on it. Imagine a farmer who plants seeds and then immediately digs them up to see if they are growing. He does this every day, planting, digging up, checking, replanting. What happens? The seeds never grow. His anxious interference prevents the natural process. But the wise farmer plants the seed and then rests. He does not dig it up. He does not anxiously check it. He trusts the process. He waters it appropriately, tends the soil when needed, but mostly he rests, knowing the seed will become a harvest in due season. This is Sabbath. This is letting go without giving up. You plant the seed in consciousness through assumption. Then you rest in faith, knowing the harvest will come. Let me clarify something important. Detachment is not the same as indifference. Indifference means you do not care. You have lost interest. The desire no longer matters to you. Detachment means you care deeply, but you do not need the physical form to feel complete. You have your desire in consciousness, and that satisfies you. The physical form will be wonderful when it arrives, but you are already fulfilled. Indifference is giving up. Detachment is letting go. Here is a simple test. If someone asked you about your desire and you feel nothing, no joy, no satisfaction, no connection, that is indifference. You have abandoned the desire. But if someone asked about your desire and you feel peaceful certainty, quiet joy, satisfied knowing, that is detachment. You have let go of the desperate grip while remaining in the state. Now let me explain why letting go. True letting go, not giving up, actually speeds up your manifestation. When you hold on desperately, you are in the state of lack. Every anxious thought, every desperate check, every fearful worry is an affirmation. I do not have this yet, and consciousness creates from the state you occupy. So you create more lack, more waiting, more absence. But when you let go, when you release the desperate grip and rest in the assumption, you are in the state of having. You are peaceful because you have your desire in consciousness. You are certain because you know it is done. Then consciousness creates from this state. It creates having. It creates certainty. It creates manifestation. The paradox is this. The less you need it to appear, the faster it appears. Why? Because not needing it to appear is the state of having it. Think about things you already have. Do you desperately need your hands to appear? Do you anxiously check whether they are still attached to your body? No. You take them for granted because you have them. When you can take your desire for granted in consciousness, when you can be so certain you have it that you do not need to check, you are in the state of possession, and the state of possession manifests possession. Let me tell you about a woman who learned this principle through experience. She desired to be in a relationship with a specific person. For months she practiced every technique. She visualized, she affirmed, she did the state akin to sleep technique every night. But she was also desperate. She was sitting by her phone waiting. She checked the post constantly. She analyzed every interaction. She was consumed by the desire to the point where it ruled her life, and nothing happened. Months passed. The relationship did not manifest. She came to me frustrated and exhausted. I am doing everything right, she said. Why is it not working? I said, you are not doing everything right. You are holding on too tightly. You are strangling your desire with desperation. But if I let go, she said, won't that mean I am giving up? No, I told her. Letting go means releasing the desperate grip while staying in the state. You can stop checking your phone and still know you are loved. You can stop analyzing every moment and still remain in the assumption of the relationship fulfilled. Let go of the how and when. Keep the what. She understood. She went home and made a decision. I am in a loving relationship with this person. This is done in consciousness. Now I let go of needing to see how or when it manifests. I rest in the knowing that it is done. And she truly let go. She stopped waiting by the phone. She stopped waiting desperately. She stopped analyzing. She returned to living her life fully. Let me give you a simple daily practice for mastering this principle. In the morning, establish the assumption. Wake up and immediately assume your desire is fulfilled. Feel it. Know it. This sets your state for the day. I have this. It is done. In consciousness, I am already living in my desire fulfilled. Throughout the day, live fully. Go about your life. Work. Play. Engage. Do not spend your day checking for signs or obsessing over your desire. If your mind drifts to your desire, simply remind yourself, it is done. I do not need to check. I rest in this knowing. Then return to whatever you were doing. In the evening, release the day. Before bed, consciously let go of any anxiety, any desperate thoughts, any grasping that accumulated during the day. I release the how. I release the when. I release the need to see it now. I rest in the certainty that it is done in consciousness. Then do your state akin to sleep practice. Fall asleep in the state of the wish fulfilled. This rhythm, morning assumption, daily living, evening release, will train you to let go without giving up. Here is the ultimate truth about letting go. The moment you can truly let go is the moment you no longer need to. When you have so completely assumed your desire, when you have so fully embodied the state, when you are so absolutely certain it is yours in consciousness, you naturally let go. Not as an effort, not as a technique, but as a natural result of truly knowing. You do not hold tightly to things you know you possess. You simply have them. And when you know you have your desire in consciousness, when you truly, deeply, unshakably know, you let go of the desperate grasping automatically. This is mastery, not forcing yourself to let go, but naturally releasing because you are so certain of possession. How do you know when you have truly let go without giving up? Here are the signs. You stop checking constantly. Hours or even days pass without you thinking obsessively about your desire. When you do think of it, it is with peaceful certainty, not anxious hope. You can engage fully in the present moment. You are not perpetually waiting for your desire to appear. You are living now, enjoying now, being present now. The circumstances do not disturb you. When something appears to contradict your assumption, you remain peaceful. You know it is just the old reflection, and you trust your new state is already creating the new reality. You feel fulfilled now. You do not need the physical manifestation to feel complete. You are satisfied in consciousness, and the physical form will be a bonus. You have stopped trying to force or control. You are not manipulating, scheming, or trying to make things happen. You have planted the seed and you trust the harvest. These signs indicate you have mastered the paradox. You have let go of the desperate grip while remaining absolutely faithful to your assumption. Tonight I want you to practice letting go without giving up. Before you fall asleep, establish your assumption firmly. I have my desire. It is done in consciousness. This is absolute truth. Feel this, know this, rest in this. Then consciously let go. I release the how. I release the when. I release the need to see it manifest right now. I trust consciousness to deliver this in the perfect way at the perfect time. Feel the relief of letting go. Feel the peace of not having to control everything. Feel the faith of knowing it is done even though you do not see it yet. Then fall asleep in the state of the wish fulfilled. Tomorrow when you wake, return to your assumption. But throughout your day, practice letting go. Stop checking, stop obsessing, live fully, trust completely. This is the way. Hold the assumption with certainty. Release the anxiety with faith. Letting go does not mean giving up. Letting go means trusting. You let go of the desperate grip. You do not let go of the desire. You let go of the how and when. You do not let go of the what. You let go of the need for physical proof. You do not let go of the certainty in consciousness. This is the paradox that unlocks everything. When you can want something deeply, assume it completely, and simultaneously release your desperate attachment to how and when it manifests, you have mastered manifestation. You are faithful to your assumption while peaceful in your detachment. You are certain of your desire while relaxed in your trust. You hold on to the state while letting go of the strain. Do this and watch as your desires manifest with an ease that will astound you. Not because you worked harder, but because you learned to let go without giving up. Thank you and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I am going to tell you something so radical, so revolutionary, that it will shatter everything you thought you knew about reality. I am going to prove to you that your life is a simulation. Nothing is happening out there. Nothing has ever happened out there. Everything, and I mean everything, is happening within your own consciousness, being projected outward like images on a screen. The world you see, touch, and experience is not the cause of your inner states. It is the effect. The people in your life are not independent agents acting upon you. They are reflections, animations, characters in the grand simulation that your consciousness is running every moment of every day. I can see some of you shifting uncomfortably already. Your rational mind is protesting, but Neville, I can clearly see other people making their own choices. I can feel the solidity of matter. I can experience events that seem to happen independent of my thoughts. And that, my friends, is precisely how convincing this simulation is. That is exactly how powerfully your consciousness has projected this three-dimensional theater of experience. But tonight I am going to pull back the curtain and show you the projection booth. I am going to prove to you that you are not a character in someone else's story. You are the author, the director, and the entire audience of your own experience. Let me begin with a simple truth that will unlock everything else. The world is a screen, and your consciousness is the projector. Think about a motion picture theater. When you watch a film, you see images moving on a screen. People talking, landscapes changing, dramas unfolding. But nothing is actually happening on the screen itself. The screen is perfectly passive, perfectly neutral. It simply reflects whatever the projector casts upon it. If a sad scene appears, the screen does not become sad. If a violent scene plays, the screen is not damaged. The screen remains unchanged by whatever images dance across its surface. All the action, all the story, all the content is coming from the projector, from the film running through the light. Your outer world is that screen. Your consciousness is the projector. And the film running through your consciousness is your inner conversation, your assumptions, your beliefs, your self-concept. Just last week, a woman came to me in absolute despair. Her husband was being cruel to her, she said. Her boss was disrespecting her. Her children were disobedient. Her neighbors were unfriendly. Everywhere she looked, she saw evidence of a hostile world acting upon her. I listened to her litany of complaints, And then I said something that shocked her. My dear, your husband is not being cruel to you. Your boss is not disrespecting you. Your children are not disobedient. These are all projections of your own inner state appearing on the screen of your experience. How can you say that? She cried. I'm not imagining this. These things are really happening. They are appearing to happen, I replied. But nothing is happening out there. It is all happening in here. I pointed to her heart, her mind. You are running a simulation based on your beliefs about yourself. And everyone in your world is playing their assigned role in that simulation perfectly. I asked her to examine her inner conversation, the silent dialogue she maintained with herself throughout each day. And as she became honest with herself, she admitted that she constantly told herself she was unworthy of respect, unlovable, inadequate as a mother, not valued at work. There is your film, I said. There is the content running through your projector. And the screen, your outer world, has no choice but to reflect it back to you. Your husband, your boss, your children, your neighbors. They are all characters in the simulation you are running. They are reflecting your inner assumptions about yourself. I taught her to change the film, to change her inner conversation from unworthiness to worthiness, from being unloved to being deeply loved, from inadequacy to capability. And as she persistently changed what was running through her consciousness, the screen began to change. Within weeks, her husband became more affectionate without her saying a word to him about it. Her boss began praising her work. Her children became more cooperative. Her neighbors grew friendly. Had these people changed? No. She had changed the simulation she was running, and they had no choice but to play their new roles in her revised script. Now let me take this deeper. Every person in your life is a character in your simulation. This does not mean they do not exist as conscious beings in their own right. It means that the version of them you experience is entirely determined by your consciousness, not by their independent choices. Think about this carefully. You have never met another person. You have only met your concept of that person. The husband you experience is not the husband that exists independently. It is your assumption about your husband made visible. Your boss, your mother, your children, your friends, you interact with your beliefs about them, not with them as they exist in themselves. And since consciousness is the only reality, your belief about them is the only version of them that exists in your world. This is why two people can know the same individual and have completely different experiences of them. One person experiences them as kind and generous. Another experiences them as cold and selfish. How can this be if people have fixed independent natures? It cannot be, unless each person is experiencing their own projection, their own simulation of that individual. This is the truth that most people find hardest to accept. Nothing in your world is independent of your consciousness. Nothing acts upon you from outside. Everything is your own consciousness pushed out, appearing as other people, circumstances, events. You think your bank balance is an independent fact. It is not. It is your assumption about money made visible. You think your health is determined by germs, genetics, age. It is not. It is your assumption about your body made manifest. You think the economy, the government, the weather are forces outside your control. They are not. In your personal simulation, they are all variables controlled by your consciousness. I know this sounds impossible. Your senses scream that the world is solid, independent, objective. But your senses are part of the simulation. They are designed to make the projection seem real, to make the screen seem solid. Let me tell you about a woman who discovered this truth in the most practical way. She had been trying to sell her house for over a year. The market was bad, she said. Buyers were scarce. Interest rates were too high. The economy was against her. She had 1,000 reasons why the house would not sell, all of them appearing to be independent facts about out there. I said to her, in your simulation you have programmed these obstacles. You are running a version of reality where houses do not sell easily. But you could just as easily run a different simulation where the market is perfect. Buyers are abundant, and your house sells immediately. But I can't control the market, she protested. You do not need to control the market out there, I replied. You need only change the market in your consciousness. In your simulation, the market is whatever you assume it to be, and the screen, the outer world, must reflect your assumption. I taught her to stop looking at external market conditions as independent facts, and to instead assume in her consciousness that her house was in high demand, that perfect buyers were already seeking it, that the sale was inevitable and imminent. She stopped reading negative real estate news. She stopped listening to reports about the bad market. Instead, she lived in the assumption that in her personal reality, houses like hers were selling quickly. She imagined the sold sign on her lawn. She felt the satisfaction of a completed sale. Within 3 weeks, she had multiple offers on her house and sold it for more than her asking price. The market had not changed out there, but in her simulation, the market had always been whatever she assumed it to be. And once she changed her assumption, the screen had to display different content. This is what I mean when I teach that you are the operant power in your world. You are not subject to forces outside yourself. You are the force that creates all the appearances you call outside. Your consciousness is running a simulation every moment. And that simulation has rules, but they are your rules, your assumptions, your beliefs. When you understand this, you realize you have been playing a game where you made the rules and then forgot you made them. You created the rule that money is hard to come by, and then you experienced difficulty with money and thought it was an external fact. You created the rule that love is scarce, that health declines with age, that success requires struggle, and then you experienced these limitations and believed they were imposed from outside. But they were never outside. They were always the content of your simulation, the film running through your projector, appearing on the screen of your experience. I can tell you these things, but you must prove them to yourself. And the proof is simple. Examine your life and you will see that it perfectly matches your inner assumptions. If you believe people are untrustworthy, look around. Your world is filled with people who betray you. If you believe money is scarce, examine your finances. Scarcity appears everywhere. If you believe you are unworthy of love, observe your relationships. They confirm your unworthiness. This is not coincidence. This is not bad luck. This is the precise mechanical operation of your consciousness projecting a simulation that matches its content. But here is the wonderful news. If your current experience is the perfect reflection of your current assumptions, then changing your assumptions must change your experience. It is law. It is inevitable. Now let me reveal to you the deepest secret of how consciousness actually works. Everything you experience is happening inside of you. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Literally, actually, completely inside of you. Right now, as you listen to these words, you believe you are in a room, in a building, in a city, in a world. But I tell you that the room is in you. The building is in you. The city, the world, the entire universe exists nowhere but within your consciousness. You think you are a small being inside a vast universe. But the truth is the reverse. The entire universe is inside you. And you are the vast awareness in which all things appear. Think about your dreams at night. Where do those dreams take place? You might dream of traveling to Paris, climbing mountains, meeting people, experiencing entire lifetimes. But when you wake up, where were you? You were in your bed the entire time. The Paris you visited, the mountains you climbed, the people you met, all of it was happening inside your consciousness. None of it was out there. And I tell you with absolute certainty, your waking life is no different. It is simply a more stable, more consistent, more convincing dream. But it is still happening entirely within consciousness, not outside of it. You have never touched anything external to yourself. You have only experienced sensations within your consciousness. You have never seen anything outside of yourself. You have only experienced images within your consciousness. You have never heard anything external to yourself. You have only experienced sounds within your consciousness. Every single experience you have ever had, every sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, thought, feeling, and sensation has occurred nowhere but within your own awareness. You have literally never experienced anything outside of consciousness, because there is no outside of consciousness. Scientists speak of the brain creating a model of reality based on sensory inputs, but they have it backwards. Consciousness is not creating a model of an external reality. Consciousness is creating the entire experience of reality, including the apparent sensory inputs themselves. When you look at a tree, light does not bounce off an external tree and enter your eyes. Your consciousness generates the entire experience of seeing a tree. The light, the eyes, the tree, and the seeing itself are all occurring within consciousness. This is why imagination and perception feel different, but are fundamentally the same process. When you imagine a tree, you know you are generating it in consciousness. When you perceive a tree, you believe you are seeing something external. But both are consciousness generating experience. The only difference is the intensity and the belief you hold about the source. The mystics have always known this truth. When Buddha said all that we are is the result of what we have thought, he was teaching this principle. When Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you, he was revealing that everything exists in consciousness, not in an external world. When the ancient texts declare the world is illusion, they mean that what appears to be an external, solid, independent reality is actually consciousness appearing as reality. You are not in the world is in you. You are not a body walking around in space. You are consciousness generating the experience of having a body and moving through space. And once you understand this, really understand it, not just intellectually but experientially, you realize you have complete power over your entire reality. Because your reality is not happening to you from outside. It is happening from you, within you, as an expression of your consciousness. The limitations you experience are not imposed by an external world. They are generated by your consciousness according to the assumptions you hold. Change your consciousness, and the entire simulation must change, because the simulation is consciousness expressing itself as experience. This is not philosophy or mysticism removed from practical life. This is the most practical truth you can know. Because when you realize that everything is happening inside consciousness, you stop trying to change things out there and you start changing consciousness itself. And changing consciousness is instant, effortless, and always effective. So how do you live with this knowledge? How do you function day to day knowing that your life is a simulation and you are its creator? First, you stop giving power to appearances. When something unwanted appears on your screen, you do not fight it, fear it, or accept it as ultimate reality. You simply recognize it as the content of an old simulation still playing out, and you begin running a new one. Second, you take full responsibility for everything in your experience, not as blame but as power. If everything is your consciousness pushed out, then you have the power to change anything by changing your consciousness. Third, you become vigilant about what you are assuming. Your assumptions are the code running your simulation. Change the code, and the output must change. Fourth, you live in the end of your desires. You run the simulation you want to experience, not the one based on current appearances. You project the film you wish to see on the screen of your life. A businessman came to me whose company was failing. Every day brought new problems, new setbacks, new evidence of impending collapse. The simulation he was experiencing was one of failure and loss. But I taught him to stop looking at the screen and start controlling the projector. Instead of reacting to each new problem, he began running a different simulation in his consciousness. One where his business was thriving, successful, and profitable. Every morning, before looking at sales figures or financial reports, he would spend time in his consciousness experiencing his business as successful. He would feel the satisfaction of strong revenues, loyal customers, and smooth operations. He would run this simulation so vividly that it felt more real than the current problems on his screen. And then, throughout the day, whenever evidence of the failing business appeared, he would not give it power. He would simply recognize it as old content still playing out while his new simulation was taking hold. Within 6 months, his business had completely turned around. New opportunities had appeared, old problems had resolved, and the company was more profitable than ever. The screen had finally caught up with the new content he had been running in his consciousness. Tonight, I want you to leave here with this understanding, burned into your consciousness. You are not a character in someone else's story. You are not subject to forces beyond your control. You are not at the mercy of the world out there. You are the consciousness running a simulation. And that simulation's your life must perfectly reflect whatever assumptions are running through your awareness. The people in your life are characters playing roles you have assigned them through your assumptions about them and yourself. The circumstances you face are scenarios generated by your beliefs about what is possible and necessary. The limitations you experience are rules you programmed into your simulation. But you can change the program at any moment. You can run a different simulation. You can project different content onto the screen of your experience. Stop looking at the screen as though it has power over you. It is perfectly passive, perfectly responsive, perfectly obedient to whatever your consciousness projects upon it. Start controlling the projector. Change your inner conversation. Revise your assumptions. Maintain the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Run the simulation you desire to experience. And then watch as the screen, your outer world, has no choice but to display the new content you are projecting from consciousness. Nothing happens out there. Everything happens in here, in consciousness, and then appears out there as your experience. You are not in the simulation. You are running the simulation. And once you truly know this, you become the conscious creator you were always meant to be. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video. My dear friends, tonight I want to speak to you about a prison. Not one made of bars or walls, but one far more binding. A prison constructed entirely of your own acceptance of the evidence of your senses. You see, most of humanity lives their entire life imprisoned in what we call the three-dimensional world. They wake each morning, open their eyes, and immediately surrender their power to what they see, what they hear, what they touch. They believe that this world of Caesar, this world of effects, is the cause of their experience. And in that belief, they become its prisoner. But I tell you tonight, and I tell you with complete conviction, you are not meant to live as a reactor to the three-dimensional world. You were born to be its creator. The moment you understand this, truly understand it, the prison walls dissolve and you step into the freedom that has always been yours. Let me explain what I mean by this trap. For it is subtle, and it has ensnared nearly everyone who walks this earth. You have a desire, perhaps it's for wealth, for health, for love, for recognition. And in a moment of inspiration, you turn within. You use your imagination. You feel it real. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And in that glorious moment, you touch something true. You touch power. You touch creation itself. But then, and this is where the trap springs, you open your eyes and return to the world of Caesar. You look at your bank account, and it shows lack. You look at your body, and it shows illness. You look at your relationships, and they reflect loneliness. And what do? You react. You say to yourself, well, I tried that imagination thing, but look, nothing has changed. The facts are still the facts. And in that moment of reaction, in that moment of bowing to the evidence of your senses, you have re-imprisoned yourself. You have made the three-dimensional world your God. Now, I must make something clear to you, for this is where most people stumble and fall. There is always a gap, what I call an interval, between your assumption in imagination and its manifestation in the three-dimensional world. Always. This is not a flaw in the law. This is not evidence that imagination doesn't work. This interval exists for a very specific reason. Think of it this way. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up the next day to see if it's growing. You know there is a period of gestation, a time during which the invisible work is being done beneath the surface. You water it, you tend it, and you wait with confidence, knowing that in due time the sprout will appear. Your imagination works the same way. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you have planted a seed in the invisible realm of consciousness. That seed is now growing, developing, preparing to break through into the visible world. But it needs time, and more importantly, it needs your fidelity. The three-dimensional world you see at this moment is nothing more than the fruit of seeds you planted weeks, months, perhaps even years ago through your habitual thinking and feeling. It is yesterday's crop. It is the past, frozen in time, appearing before you as solid reality. But it is not your future. It is not what you are creating now. It is only what you have already created. Here is the great deception. Your senses tell you that what you see, hear, and touch is reality. And because your senses are so convincing, so immediate, so persistent in their testimony, you believe them. Your eyes show you poverty, and you believe you are poor. Your body feels pain, and you believe you are sick. Your circumstances show you alone, and you believe you are unloved. But I tell you, your senses are liars. Not in the sense that they don't accurately report what is there, they do. But they lie in their claim to be the final authority on what is real and what is possible. They lie when they suggest that the visible world is the cause rather than the effect. Scripture tells us, we walk by faith, not by sight. Do you know what that means? It means we must learn to trust the invisible reality of our imagination more than the visible reality of our senses. We must learn to give greater weight to what we assume in consciousness than to what appears in the world of effects. This is the hardest thing for the human being to do, because the three-dimensional world is loud. It is insistent. It demands your attention and your agreement. And the moment you give it that agreement, the moment you say, yes, this is reality, this is the truth of my situation, you have imprisoned yourself once again. Now let me tell you something that will help you understand why this trap is so powerful and how you can escape it. Within you are two minds, though you experience yourself as one being. I call them the outer mind and the inner mind. But you might also think of them as the mind of the senses and the mind of imagination. The outer mind, the mind of the senses, lives entirely in the three-dimensional world. It observes, it analyzes, it judges based on what it perceives. It is logical, practical, concerned with survival. It wants proof before it will believe. It scans the visible world constantly, looking for confirmation that things are going well or going poorly. This mind is not your enemy, but it is not your master either. It is a servant that has forgotten its place and has set itself up as king. The inner mind, the mind of imagination, is where your true power resides. This is the mind that creates. This is the consciousness that preceded the world and brought it into being. In the beginning was the Word, Scripture tells us. The Word is your imagination, your I am, your consciousness itself. When these two minds are in conflict, when the outer mind contradicts what the inner mind has assumed, you experience what feels like a crisis. The outer mind says, look at the facts. You don't have the money. The inner mind says, I am wealthy. The outer mind says, look at your body. You are sick. The inner mind says, I am healthy. And you must choose which mind you will serve, which mind you will give your loyalty to. Most people, without even realizing they're doing it, choose the outer mind. They choose the evidence of the senses. They choose the testimony of the three-dimensional world. And in that choice they remain imprisoned, creating and recreating the same reality they're trying to escape. Let me tell you plainly what the three-dimensional world is. For when you understand its true nature, its power over you will dissolve. The three-dimensional world is shadow. It is echo. It is reflection. Think of it as a mirror. When you stand before a mirror, you see your reflection. If you don't like what you see, would you try to change the reflection directly? Would you reach toward the mirror and try to rearrange the image? Of course not. That would be madness. You know instinctively that to change the reflection, you must change what is being reflected. You must change yourself, and the mirror has no choice but to show the new image. The three-dimensional world is exactly the same. It is a perfect mirror of your consciousness, of your habitual dwelling place in imagination. If you don't like what you see in the world, you cannot change it by manipulating the world. You can only change it by changing your consciousness, by changing what you are assuming to be true about yourself. When you argue with the three-dimensional world, when you try to fix it, manipulate it, force it to be different, you are arguing with a shadow. You are trying to manipulate a reflection, and shadows and reflections have no power to resist, but they also have no power to change until you change. Here is where I must be very direct with you, for this is where most people lose their way. When the three-dimensional world shows you something you don't like, you are tempted to negotiate with it. You are tempted to make deals, to compromise, to adjust your vision to match what you see. You say things like, well, maybe I can't have the whole thing, but perhaps I can have part of it. Or maybe my desire was too big, too unrealistic. Let me adjust it to something more reasonable. Or maybe this is a sign that I should give up and accept my circumstances. Every one of these thoughts is a negotiation with the three-dimensional world. And I tell you now, the moment you negotiate with the 3D, you have given it authority over your imagination. You have made the effect more real than the cause. You have bowed down to Caesar and forgotten that you are the operant power. Do not negotiate with the three-dimensional world. Let me say that again because it is crucial. Do not negotiate with the three-dimensional world. When circumstances press in, when the facts scream at you, when the evidence of your senses overwhelms you, you must stand firm in your assumption. You must remain loyal to the invisible state you have claimed in imagination. This is not stubbornness. This is not denial of reality. This is understanding which reality is cause and which is effect. This is knowing that consciousness is the only reality, and all else is its shadow. Now, how do you practically do this? How do you stop reacting to the three-dimensional world when it appears so real, so solid, so unchangeable? First, you must catch yourself in the act of reacting. You must become aware of the moment when you see something unwanted and feel yourself beginning to accept it as truth, beginning to adjust your inner state to match the outer facts. The moment you notice this happening, and you will notice it more and more as you become conscious of it, you pause. You do not move forward in reaction. You do not let the outer dictate to the inner. Instead, you ask yourself, is this evidence of who I was or who I now am? That single question will cut through the illusion. It will remind you that what you see in the three-dimensional world is always old news. It is the harvest of seeds you planted in the past through your previous assumptions. It has nothing to do with who you have become in imagination now. If you have assumed wealth in your imagination, then you are wealthy in consciousness, regardless of what your bank account currently shows. The bank account is showing you who you were. Your imagination is showing you who you are. And between these two, you must choose which one you will give reality to. Let me give you a practical tool that has proven invaluable to those who practice it faithfully. Revision. When something happens in your three-dimensional world that contradicts your assumption, when you receive bad news, when circumstances appear to move in the wrong direction, when people act in ways that deny your fulfilled desire, do not accept it. Instead, immediately revise it in your imagination. If you receive a rejection letter, sit quietly, close your eyes, and imagine receiving an acceptance letter. Feel it in your hands. Read the words of approval and enthusiasm. Make it vivid and real in your imagination. If someone speaks to you harshly, denying your worth, immediately replay the scene in your imagination, with them speaking to you with respect and kindness. Hear their voice saying what you would have heard had the world been as you desire. This is not pretending. This is not make-believe. This is exercising your power as the creator of your reality. You are refusing to let the three-dimensional world write your story. You are taking the pen back and writing the story yourself. Every time you revise, you are saying to the universe, to the three-dimensional world, no, I do not accept this version. This is not consistent with who I am in my imagination, and therefore it is not my reality. And when you persist in this, when you refuse to negotiate, when you consistently choose your imaginal state over the evidence of your senses, the three-dimensional world has no choice but to conform. I want you to understand something fundamental. You are not a victim of the three-dimensional world. You are its cause. Consciousness is the only reality. I have said this countless times, but I will say it again because it is the foundation of everything. Consciousness is the only reality, and all else is its manifestation. You are consciousness. You are the I am. You are not the body that walks through this three-dimensional world. You are not the personality with its history and its limitations. You are the eternal awareness, the imaging power, the very presence of God individualized. When you know this, not as a concept, but as a living truth, you cannot be imprisoned by anything external. How can that which creates the world be imprisoned by its own creation? The three-dimensional world has no power except the power you give it through your belief, through your reaction, through your acceptance of its testimony as final. The moment you withdraw that power, the moment you refuse to bow to its authority, it loses its grip on you. It becomes what it has always been, clay in the hands of consciousness, waiting to be molded into whatever form consciousness assumes. Now let me tell you the secret of escaping this prison permanently. You must live from the end. What does this mean? It means you must assume the consciousness of your wish already fulfilled, and live in that assumption as though it were already a fact in the three-dimensional world, even when all evidence denies it. If you desire wealth, you do not imagine yourself becoming wealthy. You imagine from the state of being wealthy. You assume the feeling of wealth now. You think as the wealthy man thinks. You speak as the wealthy man speaks. You carry yourself as the wealthy man carries himself. You do this not as an act, not as a performance, but as an assumption of truth. You are not pretending to be wealthy while secretly knowing you are poor. You are claiming wealth in consciousness, and you are remaining loyal to that claim regardless of what the three-dimensional mirror currently reflects. This is what I mean by living from the end. You skip over all the means, all the process, all the how, and you go straight to the end, to the fulfillment of your desire. You assume it is already done, and you live in that assumption. The three-dimensional world will test you. It will show you evidence that contradicts your assumption. It will present you with circumstances that seem to make your desire impossible. This is not the universe punishing you or denying you. This is simply the old reflection still playing out while the new one is being formed. Your job is to remain faithful to the new assumption, to continue living from the end, to refuse to negotiate with the old reality. And in time, in God's time, which is always perfect, the three-dimensional world will rearrange itself to match your assumption. It must. It has no choice. Because consciousness is cause and the world is effect. There comes a moment in every person's journey when they finally understand that they are not trapped in the three-dimensional world at all, that the prison was always an illusion, maintained only by their belief in it. When you reach that moment, and you will if you persist, you will laugh at how seriously you once took the evidence of your senses. You will marvel at how you allowed shadows to frighten you, how you let reflections convince you of their permanence. You will realize that you were never imprisoned. You simply believed you were, and that belief created the experience of imprisonment. The truth is, you have always been free. You have always been the operant power. You have always been the creator standing behind the mirror, capable of changing the reflection at will. The three-dimensional world has never had power over you. You gave it power through your acceptance of its verdict as final. And the moment you withdraw that acceptance, the moment you reclaim your authority as consciousness itself, the prison walls dissolve. Let me give you a practice to take with you from tonight's lecture. Tomorrow morning when you wake, before you open your eyes, before you allow the three-dimensional world to flood in with its facts and circumstances, take a moment to remember who you are. Say to yourself, I am the operant power, I am consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. The world I see is my creation, and I can change it by changing my assumptions. Then throughout the day, whenever you are tempted to react to something in the three-dimensional world, whenever you feel yourself beginning to negotiate with circumstances, remember this. You are not in the world. The world is in you. You contain it all. You are not a small being trying to manipulate a large indifferent universe. You are consciousness itself, and the universe is your own wonderful human imagination pushed out. When you receive news that contradicts your assumption, say quietly to yourself, this is who I was, not who I am. I do not negotiate with yesterday. I remain in my chosen state. When your senses show you lack, remember that they are showing you the past. Turn within and feel abundance now. Do not wait for the three-dimensional proof. Be abundant in consciousness, and let the proof follow. When people act in ways that deny your fulfilled desire, do not argue with them. Do not try to convince them. Simply revise the interaction in your imagination. See them and hear them responding to you as they would respond to the person you have become in imagination. This is not difficult. It requires no special talent or ability. It requires only persistence, only loyalty to your imaginal state, only refusal to bow to the tyranny of facts. I must warn you, you will be tested, not by some external force, not by a punishing God, but by the simple mechanics of creation. The three-dimensional world will continue to reflect your old assumptions for a time after you have changed them. This is the interval I spoke of earlier, the gap between planting and harvest. During this interval, you will be tempted to doubt. You will be tempted to think that your new assumption isn't working, that imagination isn't powerful enough, that perhaps you should return to trying to manipulate the outer world. This is the test. This is where most people fail. They remain in their new state for a day, perhaps a week, perhaps even a month. But when the three-dimensional world doesn't immediately reflect the change, they fold. They return to the old state. They begin to negotiate. And in doing so, they plant the old seed again. They recreate the very reality they were trying to escape. Do not make this mistake. Persist, remain faithful. Stay loyal to your assumption regardless of what you see, regardless of how long it takes, regardless of how loudly the three-dimensional world protests. I promise you, on the authority of my own experience and the experience of countless others who have proven this law, if you persist, if you refuse to negotiate, if you remain in the state of the wish fulfilled, the three-dimensional world will conform. It must conform, because it has no choice, because it is not the cause you are. Tonight I have told you that you are trapped in 3D. But the moment you truly hear this message, the moment you truly understand it, you are no longer trapped, because the trap exists only in your belief. The three-dimensional world is not your prison. Your acceptance of it as final authority is your prison. And you hold the key. You have always held the key. That key is your imagination, your consciousness, your I am. Use it. Claim your desire in imagination. Feel it as real now, not in some distant future. Assume the state of the wish fulfilled. And then, and this is crucial, remain in that state, no matter what the three-dimensional world shows you. Do not negotiate with appearances. Do not make deals with circumstances. Do not adjust your vision to match the mirror. Instead, hold your vision firm, and watch as the mirror adjusts to match you. You are not meant to be a prisoner of the world. You are meant to be its creator, its master, its operant power. And the moment you step into that truth, the moment you refuse to give the three-dimensional world authority over your consciousness, you are free. Free to create, free to imagine, free to become anything you desire to be. The prison has no walls. It never did. Walk out. You are free. Thank you and good evening. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video. Good evening, my friends. Tonight I am going to tell you something so radical, so utterly transformative, that if you truly grasp it, you will never see yourself or your world the same way again. You have never lived, and you will never die. I can see the confusion in your faces. But Neville, you're thinking, I am clearly alive. I breathe, I think, I experience. How can you say I've never lived? And that is precisely the point I am going to illuminate tonight. What you call living, what you believe is your life, is not life at all. It is consciousness experiencing itself through the lens of individuality. It is the infinite imagining itself as the finite. It is God dreaming that He is you. And if you have never truly lived as a separate, independent being, then you can never truly die. For what never began cannot end. What was never born cannot perish. You are not a body that has consciousness. You are consciousness that is dreaming itself as a body. Tonight I will take you deep into the nature of consciousness itself. I will show you that the entire world you perceive, everything you call out there, exists nowhere but within you. And I will prove to you that you are not in the universe. The universe is in you. Let me begin by shattering the fundamental illusion that has imprisoned humanity since the beginning of time. The illusion that you are separate from the world you perceive. You believe you are a small being, a tiny consciousness, trapped inside a body, moving through a vast external world. You believe you were born on a certain date, that you will live for a certain number of years, and that eventually you will die and cease to exist. This belief is the root of all suffering, all fear, all sense of limitation, and it is completely, utterly, fundamentally false. The truth is this: you are not inside the world is inside you. You are not a fragment of consciousness experiencing a vast external reality. You are consciousness itself, and everything you perceive as external to you exists entirely within your own awareness. Think about this carefully. Right now, you believe you are sitting in a room, in a building, in a city, on a planet, in a universe. But let me ask you, where are you actually experiencing this room? Where is this experience happening? Stop for a moment and really consider this. You think the room is out there, separate from you? But is it? Have you ever stepped outside of your own experience to verify that the room exists independently? The answer is no. You cannot. Everything you know about this room, you know through your experience of it. The sights, the sounds, the feeling of the chair beneath you. All of this is happening in one place in your experience, in your awareness, in what we call consciousness. Let me make this simpler. When you see a tree, where does that seeing happen? You might say the tree is outside. But the actual experience of seeing the tree, the image of the tree, the greenness of its leaves, the sense of it being there, all of that is happening inside your awareness, not outside of it. You have never, not even once in your entire life, experienced anything outside of your own awareness. Every sound you've ever heard, you heard within your awareness. Every touch you felt within your awareness. Every sight, every smell, every taste, all of it happened within the field of your own experience. Think about it this way. If you are not aware of something, does it exist for you? If you cannot see it, hear it, touch it, taste it, smell it, or think about it, does it exist in your experience? No. For something to exist in your world, you must be aware of it. This means everything in your world, everything you call reality, exists within your awareness, not outside of it. The room is not separate from your experience of the room. The people are not separate from your experience of the people. The entire world you perceive exists as your experience of it, within your awareness. Now here is where it gets profound. What you call out there is actually in here. What you think is external to you is actually internal to you. Not internal to your body, but internal to your awareness, to your consciousness, to the experiencing of life itself. You are not a person inside a room. You are the awareness in which the experience of being a person in a room appears. You are not separate from your world. You are the field of awareness in which the entire world appears. This is not poetry or mysticism. This is simply observing what is actually true about your experience. You have never stepped outside of your awareness. You have never touched anything that wasn't an experience within consciousness. You have never been separate from your world, because your world exists as your awareness of it. And if this is true, if everything you experience exists within your awareness, then changing your world is not about manipulating external things. It's about changing your awareness itself. Change what you are aware of. Change how you are aware, and your entire world must change, because your world is your awareness. Let me illustrate this with an analogy that will make it clear. Think about your dreams at night. When you dream, you create entire worlds. You populate them with people. You experience events, emotions, sensations. The dream feels completely real while you are in it. Now, where does that dream take place? Not in some external location. It takes place entirely within your consciousness. The people in your dream are not separate beings. They are aspects of your own consciousness appearing as separate characters. The world of the dream is not outside of you. It is you expressing as a dream. When you wake up, you realize this immediately. You understand that the entire dream was your consciousness creating and experiencing itself. Nothing in the dream had independent existence. It was all you. Now here is the truth that will transform everything. Your waking life operates by exactly the same principle. This life you are living right now, this world you perceive as solid and external, is no different from a dream. It is consciousness, your consciousness, creating and experiencing itself. The only difference between your nighttime dreams and your waking dream is that the waking dream is more stable, more consistent, more convincing. But it is a dream nonetheless, and you are not a character in the dream. You are the dreamer. You are not John or Mary or whoever you believe yourself to be. That is a character, a role, a temporary expression. The real you is the consciousness that is dreaming this entire experience into being. And if you are the dreamer, not the dream, then you have never been born, and you can never die, because the dreamer exists before the dream, during the dream, and after the dream. The dreamer is eternal, infinite, unchanging consciousness. Now let me go deeper into the nature of consciousness itself, because this is the foundation of everything I teach. Consciousness is not something you have. Consciousness is what you are, and consciousness is all that exists. There is nothing outside of consciousness. There is nothing other than consciousness. Everything that appears to exist, everything you perceive as matter or energy or space or time, is simply consciousness appearing as these things. Science tells you that matter is solid, that the world is made of atoms and molecules and physical stuff. But quantum physics has discovered something extraordinary. When you look closely at matter, it dissolves into energy. And when you look closely at energy, it dissolves into probability waves. And when you look closely at probability waves, they collapse into existence only when they are observed by consciousness. Matter is not the foundation of reality. Consciousness is the foundation of reality. Matter is simply how consciousness appears when it takes form. You are not a physical being having a spiritual experience. You are consciousness itself, temporarily forgetting your true nature and experiencing yourself as a physical being. And here is what this means for your life. If consciousness is all that exists, and you are consciousness, then you are all that exists. Not your ego, not your personality, not the character you play in this dream, but the consciousness that you are, the awareness that is aware of all experience, that is the only reality. Everything else, every single thing you perceive as outside of you, is consciousness appearing as outside, but remaining always inside, always within the one infinite awareness that you are. Let me make this intensely practical. Every person you meet, every situation you encounter, every circumstance you experience exists in one place and one place only, in your consciousness. When you interact with another person, you are not actually interacting with an independent being outside of you. You are interacting with your consciousness of that person. When you see a tree, you are not seeing an external tree. You are experiencing your consciousness appearing as a tree. This is why I teach that everyone is you pushed out, because there is no out there separate from you. There is only consciousness, and you are that consciousness. And everything you experience is that consciousness taking form. Think about what this means. If the world is your consciousness externalized, then changing your world does not require you to manipulate external circumstances. It requires you to change your consciousness. Change your consciousness, and the world must change, because the world is consciousness. If you are experiencing poverty, it is because poverty exists in your consciousness. If you are experiencing illness, it is because illness exists in your consciousness. If you are experiencing loneliness, it is because loneliness exists in your consciousness. But here is the liberating truth. If these conditions exist in your consciousness, you can change them in there. And when you change them in consciousness, they must change in your experience, because consciousness is the only reality. You are not powerless before external circumstances. You are the creator of circumstances through your consciousness. You are not subject to the world. The world is subject to you because the world is you. Now let us return to the profound statement that opened this lecture. You have never lived and you will never die. What I mean is this: the consciousness that you are has never been born and can never cease to be. Consciousness is eternal. It has no beginning and no end. It exists before all time and after all time. It is the ground of all being, the source of all existence. The body you inhabit will be born and will die. The personality you express will come into being and will fade away. The character you play in this dream will have a beginning and an end. But these are not you. These are experiences within consciousness, appearances within awareness. The real you, the consciousness that is aware of the body, aware of the personality, aware of the character, that consciousness has never begun and will never end. Think about your own experience. Can you remember a time when you did not exist? Not when your body did not exist, but when you, the awareness, the consciousness, did not exist? You cannot. Because consciousness has always been. It is the eternal witness, the unchanging awareness in which all experience arises and passes away. And can you imagine a future in which you, the awareness, will cease to exist? Can you conceive of consciousness ending? You cannot. Because consciousness is eternal. It does not end. It cannot end. It is the very ground of existence itself. What you call death is simply the end of one dream and the beginning of another. It is consciousness withdrawing from one form and expressing through another. It is the dreamer waking from one dream and entering another. But the dreamer never dies. The consciousness never ceases. You, the real you, the eternal awareness, continue forever because you have existed forever. Here is another profound truth about consciousness. Time is an illusion created within consciousness. Time does not exist outside of it. There is no past, no future, only the eternal now of awareness. When you remember the past, where does that memory exist? In the present moment of consciousness. When you imagine the future, where does that imagination exist? In the present moment of consciousness. All of time, past, present, and future, exists only in the eternal now of awareness. This is why I teach that you can revise the past, because the past is not a fixed reality existing somewhere outside of consciousness. The past is a present memory, and present memories can be changed. Let me reveal to you an even deeper mystery. Not only is the world within you, not only are you eternal consciousness, but there is only one consciousness. There is only one awareness. There is only one I am. You believe you are separate from other people, that there are billions of individual consciousnesses, all experiencing their own separate realities. But this is the grandest illusion of all. There is only one consciousness experiencing itself as many. There is only one awareness appearing as billions of individual awarenesses. There is only one I am speaking through every mouth, looking through every eye, experiencing through every body. When you look at another person, you are not looking at someone separate from you. You are looking at yourself in disguise. You are the one consciousness looking at itself through different eyes. And if there is only one consciousness and you are that consciousness, then you are not a small separate being living in a vast universe. You are the entire universe dreaming itself as a small separate being. You are not in the world is in you. You are not one among many. You are the one appearing as many. You are not a part of God. You are God, pretending to be a part. Now, what does it mean to live from this understanding? How does your life change when you realize that you have never been born and will never die? That the entire world exists within you? That you are infinite consciousness temporarily dreaming itself as finite form? First, all fear dissolves. What is there to fear when you are eternal? What can threaten you when you are infinite? What can harm you when you are the consciousness in which all harm appears? Death becomes meaningless. Not because you will live forever in this body, but because the consciousness you are has never been born and cannot die. The body will perish, but you are not the body. You are the awareness in which the body appears. Second, all limitation dissolves. If the world is within you, if circumstances are your consciousness externalized, then you can change anything by changing your consciousness. There are no external barriers, no real obstacles, no genuine limitations. There is only consciousness and its infinite creative power. Third, all separation dissolves. You realize that every person you meet is yourself in disguise, that every enemy is yourself wearing a mask, that every stranger is yourself pretending not to recognize yourself. This creates a profound sense of unity, of love, of compassion for all beings, because you realize that in hurting another, you hurt yourself. In loving another, you love yourself. In seeing another as separate, you forget yourself. So how do you live from this truth? How do you maintain awareness that you are infinite consciousness, not a limited body? The practice is simple but profound. Remember, throughout your day, pause and remember. Remember that you are not this body. Remember that you are not this personality. Remember that you are the consciousness in which all experience arises. When you look at the world, remember that you are not looking at something external. You are looking at your own consciousness appearing as the world. When you encounter a challenge, remember that you are not a small being facing a big problem. You are infinite consciousness experiencing a temporary appearance of limitation. When you feel fear or anxiety, remember that you are eternal. Nothing can threaten the consciousness that you are. When you feel separate from others, remember that there is only one consciousness, and you are that consciousness experiencing itself as many. This remembering is the greatest spiritual practice. Not to achieve something you lack, but to remember what you already are. Not to become enlightened, but to recognize that you are enlightenment itself, temporarily pretending to be unenlightened. My friends, I invite you tonight to consider the possibility that everything I have said is literally, actually, completely true. Not as metaphor, not as poetry, not as philosophy, but as the direct description of reality. You have never lived because the consciousness you are was never born. You will never die because consciousness is eternal. The world is not outside of you. The world is inside you within consciousness. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. And if this is true, if you are infinite consciousness temporarily dreaming itself as finite form, then what becomes possible? Everything. Absolutely everything. Because you are not subject to the laws of the physical world. You are the consciousness that creates those laws. You are not limited by circumstances. You are the consciousness that creates circumstances. You are not powerless before the world. You are the creative power that manifests as the world. This is your true identity. This is what you actually are. Not the small, separate, limited being you believe yourself to be, but infinite, eternal, all-powerful consciousness itself. And when you truly know this, when you live from this understanding, when you remember this truth in every moment, then you become what you have always been, the conscious creator of your reality, the dreamer of your dream, the infinite expressing as the finite. You have never lived in the sense you thought, and you will never die, because you are consciousness itself, eternal and infinite, dreaming the dream of separation and one day awakening to your true nature. The world is not outside. The world is inside. You are not in consciousness. Consciousness is all there is, appearing as you, appearing as me, appearing as everything. This is the deepest truth I can share with you. Meditate upon it, contemplate it, test it in your experience, and gradually you will awaken from the dream of separation into the reality of unity, from the illusion of limitation into the truth of infinite creative power. You are consciousness. You have always been consciousness. You will always be consciousness. And consciousness is all that has ever been, and all that will ever be. Thank you. And good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video.
Stop everything. What I'm about to tell you will either change your life forever, or you'll dismiss it as impossible. A man with nothing but debt discovered this one truth, and exactly 30 days later, he received a call that made him a millionaire. No hustle, no grind, just one shift in consciousness. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to do the same, and I'll give you the exact technique he used. You will be a millionaire in 1 month. Not because of effort, not because of hustle, not because of anything the world teaches, but because you will awaken to the truth. Imagination creates reality. The moment you accept this as fact, not as theory, your life begins to unfold in accordance with your assumptions. The riches you desire, the lifestyle you long for, the security you dream of, they are not out there. They are within you, awaiting your command. But here's where 99% of people fail, and why you won't if you keep watching. In exactly 1 month, if you dare to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you will watch the outer world bend to your inner world. Do not ask how, that is the fatal error. To ask how is to admit you do not yet believe. The how belongs to God, to the deeper dimension of yourself. Your task is not to figure out the bridge of incidents that will lead to your millions. Your task is to accept the end, live in the end, feel the reality of already having what you want. For that which you accept as true of yourself, though denied by the senses, if persisted in, will harden into fact. This is not philosophy, this is law, as immutable as gravity, as certain as the sunrise. Listen closely. This next part separates the rich from the poor forever. So do not look to the newspapers, the bank account, or outer circumstances. These are shadows of previous assumptions, echoes of the old you, not the new you. The new you is a millionaire now. You must walk as though you already possess what the world says is still to come. You must dine with the wealthy in your imagination, walk through your mansion in consciousness, see the figures in your bank account as done, final, unquestioned. I am not speaking poetically, I am speaking literally. Everything in this world is a manifestation of imagination. The house you live in, the clothes you wear, the voice you hear, all came forth from an inner act. Someone imagined it, dared to believe in the invisible, and the visible world conformed. A billionaire once told me this secret, and now I'm sharing it with you. The wealthy know something the poor do not. They know that money is not earned. It is assumed. They know that wealth is not acquired. It is embodied. They know that riches are not obtained through struggle. They are claimed through state. This is why some people work their entire lives and remain poor, while others seem to attract wealth effortlessly. It is not about intelligence, education, or even opportunity. It is about the state from which they operate. Here's the story that proves this isn't just theory, this actually happened. Consider the man who was down to his last dollar. No hope, no job, no prospects. His electricity was about to be shut off. His rent was 3 months behind. Everyone had given up on him, including himself. But he heard these truths and made a decision that would change everything. He began to live as though he were already wealthy, not pretending, actually living from that state. He imagined himself writing checks freely, gifting his family generously, waking up in abundance. Every morning he would lie in bed and feel the sensation of silk sheets instead of his worn cotton ones. He would imagine the weight of his platinum watch, the sound of his luxury car starting, the respect in people's voices when they spoke to him. What happened next will shock you. He did this so often and with such faith that he could feel the weight of money in his hands, even when his pockets were empty. Then one morning, exactly 28 days later, he received a phone call that changed everything. A forgotten investment from years before had matured. A small stock purchase he'd made and completely forgotten about had split multiple times. He was now worth over $2 million. He did nothing in the outer world to make it happen. He simply accepted it as real in his imagination first. But here's what's even more remarkable. This was not a coincidence. This is how the law works for everyone who dares to apply it. But here's the secret most millionaires will never tell you. The law does not care whether the assumption is true or false in the current moment. It simply reflects what is impressed upon it with feeling and persistence. You are the operant power. You choose what to believe. And if you believe, truly believe, not just hope, that you are already wealthy, that the money is already yours, that every need is met, then reality will reorganize itself to reflect that inner conviction. It must. It has no choice. The world is a mirror that never lies. It reflects what you are, not what you want. So be the thing you seek, and the thing will come running to you with the speed of your conviction. This is where most people sabotage themselves. Don't make this mistake. This is not positive thinking. Positive thinking is trying to paint over doubt with pretty words. This is not about feeling good when you have no reason to feel good. This is about entering a state of consciousness that matches the result you desire and remaining there regardless of outer circumstances. If you can enter and remain in that state, the state of already being wealthy, you will manifest the conditions, people, opportunities, and events that match it. The universe has no choice but to conform to your assumption, but you must be willing to feel wealthy when your bank account says otherwise. You must be willing to think like a millionaire when the bills are piling up. You must be willing to act from abundance when the world shows you lack. Here's exactly how millionaires think differently. How would a millionaire walk? They would walk with certainty, with quiet confidence, not arrogance, confidence. There's a difference. Arrogance compensates for insecurity. Confidence simply knows. How would they speak? They would speak with authority, not because they need to prove anything, but because they know who they are. Their words would carry weight because they are spoken from a state of having, not wanting. How would they think? They would no longer worry about bills, because bills are not a concern for someone with unlimited resources. They would no longer shrink from generosity, because giving is natural when you know there's always more where that came from. They would feel quiet confidence, divine satisfaction, steady knowing. That feeling is the secret. I'm about to share the exact technique that changes everything. All transformation begins with assumption. The assumption of the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the creative act. It is the only creative act. Everything else is just the working out of that assumption in the world of effects. This work is done in silence, in stillness, within. You may do it lying on your bed, riding the bus, waiting in line. No one needs to know. In fact, it's better if they don't. This is sacred work, intimate work between you and the infinite. To be a millionaire in 1 month, you must think from the end, not to the end. This distinction is crucial. Do not think of money, think from money. Do not imagine getting rich. Imagine already being rich. Here's the visualization technique that never fails. See yourself walking into your bank, not to deposit a paycheck, but to speak with your private wealth manager about where to invest your millions. Feel the deference in the banker's voice. Notice how differently people treat you when they know you have money. Hear the conversations people would have with you. How did you become so successful? What's your secret? Will you invest in my business? Feel the weight of these requests, the responsibility that comes with wealth. See the letters you would write, not bills you're paying, but checks you're writing to causes you care about. Feel the joy of having more than enough, not just for yourself, but for everyone you love. Use all your senses. What does wealth smell like? The leather in your new car, the expensive cologne you can now afford, the fresh flowers in your mansion. What does it sound like? The quiet hum of your luxury vehicle, the applause at the charity gala where you're the keynote speaker. A woman followed this exact process, and here's what happened. She once attended one of my talks. She was a single mother, working 3 jobs, barely making ends meet. She had $47 in her bank account, and her car had just broken down. By every external measure, she was the last person you'd expect to become wealthy. But she understood these principles. She began to live in the assumption that she was already financially free. Every night before sleep, she would imagine herself in a beautiful home, debt-free, able to spend quality time with her children without worrying about money. She would feel the satisfaction of writing the final payment on her mortgage, the joy of taking her kids on vacation, the peace of knowing she never had to worry about money again. She did this consistently for 23 days. What happened next proves this law works for anyone. On day 24, she felt inspired to buy a lottery ticket. Now, she had never bought a lottery ticket in her life. She'd always said it was a waste of money, but the inspiration was so strong, so clear, that she couldn't ignore it. She didn't pick the numbers logically. She simply felt inspired by certain numbers and chose those. When she scratched the ticket, she found herself suddenly in possession of $750,000, not millions, but more than enough to change her life completely. She was not surprised. She had already received it within. The ticket was merely the bridge of incidents that the universe used to deliver what she had already claimed in consciousness. And she knew that if she could do it once, she could do it again and again. But here's what you must never do if you want this to work. The key is feeling, not just mental imagery. Without feeling, imagination is sterile, powerless, nothing more than daydreaming. But with feeling, with the feeling of reality, with the feeling of possession, imagination becomes the creative power of the universe itself. So do not imagine mechanically. Do not repeat empty affirmations like a parrot. Do not visualize while thinking about your problems or doubting whether it will work. Feel your way into the scene. Dwell in it. Savor it. Let it saturate your being. Let the imagined scene be more real than what your eyes see. What your eyes see is temporary. It's just the shadow of past assumptions playing out. But what you imagine with feeling is eternal and creative. It is the cause that will soon become the new effect. There is one mistake keeps people broke their entire lives. Most people imagine what they want, then immediately look around to see if it's manifesting yet. This is fatal. This is doubt masquerading as checking progress. Every time you check, you're operating from the assumption that it hasn't happened yet. Instead, you must imagine, then rest in the satisfaction of knowing it is done. Feel the completion. Feel the fulfillment. Feel the certainty that comes from knowing something is already accomplished. In the next 30 days, if you do this one thing consistently, you will be a millionaire. In 1 month, if you will live in the end, assume the reality of wealth, and remain faithful to that assumption, regardless of what your senses report, the millions will come. Whether through sudden opportunity, an unexpected gift, a forgotten investment, a new business venture, or a miracle beyond human reason, it does not matter. The method is not your concern. The assumption is your power. Hold to it. Refuse to waver, no matter what the world says. The world will test your faith. It will show you the opposite of what you want. It will whisper that you're deluding yourself. This is normal. This is expected. The old assumptions are dying hard, but persist. Persist with the stubbornness of someone who knows a secret the world doesn't understand. Here's what most people don't understand about money and consciousness. You are not waiting on money. Money is waiting on you. It is waiting on your consciousness to match its frequency. It is waiting on your self-concept to rise to the level of wealth. It is waiting on your assumption to become so stable that the universe has no choice but to conform to it. Money is not hiding from you. Opportunities are not avoiding you. Success is not playing hard to get. You are simply not yet vibrating at the frequency that attracts these things naturally and effortlessly. But the moment you change your assumption, the moment you begin to operate from the state of already being wealthy, everything changes. You become a magnet for wealth because you are wealth in consciousness. Here's the daily practice that guarantees results. Become now the person who has it. Not tomorrow, not when you see evidence, but now. Think as they think, feel as they feel, live as they live, do it boldly, do it faithfully, do it joyfully. Every morning when you wake, before you check your phone, before you think about your problems, spend the first few minutes of your day assuming you are already wealthy. Feel the satisfaction, feel the security, feel the freedom. Every night before you sleep, review your day as though you lived it as a millionaire. If you acted from lack during the day, revise it in your imagination. See yourself acting from abundance instead. This is not dishonesty. This is creation. It is the inner conversation that creates millionaires. You cannot speak lack and live abundance. You cannot grumble about bills and expect financial freedom. You cannot complain about your job and attract better opportunities. The law is not mocked. It gives you exactly what you continually affirm within. Train your inner conversation to reflect your desired outcome. Speak within as though you are already rich. I always have more than enough. Money flows to me from multiple sources. Everything I touch prospers and multiplies. I am blessed with abundant wealth. Do not say these things like mantras, without meaning. Say them with conviction, with feeling, until they move you, until they feel like the only truth you know. You do not manifest what you occasionally feel. You manifest what you consistently assume. The next technique dissolves doubt instantly and permanently. When doubt creeps in, and it will, do not wrestle with it. Do not argue with it. Do not try to convince it otherwise. Simply return to the state. Let the scene of fulfilled desire play again. Let the feeling of the fulfilled state return. You do not destroy doubt by fighting it. You dissolve it by starving it of attention. You starve it by feasting on the assumption of the wish fulfilled. Every moment you spend in the state of wealth is a moment doubt cannot exist. Doubt and faith cannot occupy the same space. Choose which one you will feed with your attention. Whatever you feed grows stronger. Whatever you starve grows weaker until it disappears entirely. Why some people get rich quickly while others struggle forever. All power is in the present assumption, not tomorrow's hope, not next week's plan, not next year's goal, but this moment's assumption. This is your power. This is your moment. In this very moment, you may assume that you are the millionaire you desire to be. If you remain faithful to that assumption, if you refuse to be moved by contrary evidence, if you persist despite the laughter of friends and the doubt of family, the world must show it to you. It must, for imagination creates reality, and imagination is always now. The rich understand this intuitively. They assume they deserve wealth. They assume opportunities will come to them. They assume they will succeed, and so they do. The poor assume the opposite and wonder why their assumption proves itself true as well. Now I give you the scientific proof that this actually works. Modern quantum physics has confirmed what the mystics have always known. Consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. The observer effect shows us that the act of observation changes what is observed. Your assumption is your observation of reality. When you assume you are wealthy, you are observing yourself from the state of wealth. This observation, held consistently, with feeling, must manifest as the experience of wealth in your outer world. It is not magic, it is law. The universe is not solid matter moving through empty space. It is consciousness appearing as matter, energy, space, and time. Change the consciousness, and you change the appearance. This is not theory, this is demonstrable fact. Neuroscience has shown that your brain cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you imagine yourself as wealthy, with enough detail and feeling, your brain creates the same neural pathways as if you were actually wealthy. These neural pathways then influence your behavior, your decisions, your posture, your speech. Everything about you begins to align with wealth consciousness. You start to notice opportunities you missed before. You start to take actions you wouldn't have taken before. But this is just the beginning. The real magic happens when your assumption becomes so natural, so automatic, that you forget you're assuming it. When being wealthy feels more natural than being poor, the transformation is complete. There's a mistake that keeps 90% of people stuck in poverty. Most people imagine wealth as something separate from themselves, something they might get, something they might become, something that might happen to them. This is the fundamental error that keeps them bound to limitation. Wealth is not something you get, it is something you are. It is not something external that comes to you. It is something internal that expresses through you. The moment you realize you are not trying to become wealthy, but simply recognizing that you already are wealthy in consciousness, everything changes. You stop chasing money and start attracting it. You stop working for wealth and start allowing it. You stop trying to force doors open and start finding them already unlocked. Here's how to know when your assumption is working. You will notice subtle changes at first. People will treat you differently, though they won't know why. You will feel an inner certainty that cannot be shaken. Even when your bank account still shows the old figures, ideas will flash into your mind. Business ideas, investment ideas, creative ideas that could generate income. Opportunities will knock. People will offer you deals, partnerships, chances you never had before. You will feel an inner magnetism that draws wealth-related situations to you. And even if you do not yet see the dollars, you will know they are near. You will feel them forming like clouds gathering before the rain. Do not dismiss these signs. They are not coincidences. They are evidence that your assumption is taking root in the deeper mind. I will give you now the daily ritual that accelerates manifestation. Water your assumption with faith. Do not dig it up with doubt by constantly checking for evidence. Trust the process completely. If you should falter, if fear arises, if doubt creeps in, return at once to the state. Close your eyes and enter again. See the money. Feel the joy. Hear the congratulations. Feel the weight of success. Do this as often as needed, for repetition impresses the subconscious mind, and once the subconscious accepts something as true, the outer world must follow. You are not trying to force reality, you are allowing it to become what you have already accepted within. There is no strain in this, no effort, no struggle. There is only assumption and faith. The next story of a woman will give you chills. Another woman told me she followed this process, and within 3 weeks began receiving checks in the mail, not paychecks, unexpected checks. A tax refund she'd forgotten about. A class action settlement she didn't know she was part of. A rebate from a purchase made years ago. Each check was small by itself, but together they totaled over $3,000. She was not surprised. She had been living in the assumption of money flowing to her from expected and unexpected sources. The universe simply used these forgotten channels to deliver what she had claimed. But this was just the beginning. By week 4, a relative she barely knew left her $50,000 in their will. By month 2, she was offered a job paying 3 times her previous salary. By month 3, her small side business had exploded with new customers. I tell you the secret that wealthy families have used for generations. Old money families understand this principle instinctively. They raise their children with the assumption of wealth, not the hope of it. Their children grow up never doubting they will be wealthy because they are surrounded by the assumption of wealth from birth. This is why wealth tends to stay in families, not just because of inherited money, but because of inherited assumptions. The consciousness of wealth gets passed down more powerfully than the money itself, but you can create this consciousness in yourself right now, today, this moment. You do not need to be born into it. You can assume it, embody it, become it through the power of your own imagination. The key is feeling without forcing. When you feel that you already are a millionaire, not that you're trying to become one, the struggle ends and the flow begins. Imagination without feeling is sterile, but with feeling it is the creative power of God Himself. So do not imagine mechanically. Do not repeat empty affirmations. Feel your way into the seed. Dwell in it. Savor it. Let it saturate your being. Let it be more real to you than your current bank balance. For the truth is, your current balance is only real because you have continued to give it your attention and belief. Shift your attention to your desired balance, and you shift your world. When you begin to live from the end, the outer world becomes irrelevant to your sense of identity. You will no longer look to circumstances to tell you who you are. You will look within, and what you feel yourself to be within, the world will soon reflect without. You will notice synchronicities that are not coincidences at all. A chance meeting with someone who has the exact opportunity you need. An old contact calling with a business proposal. A new idea lighting up your mind like a lightning bolt of inspiration. But these are not the source of your wealth. They are the effect of your assumption. The source is your consciousness. You are not at the mercy of economics, governments, or fate. You are at the mercy of your own imagination. But once you realize this, you are no longer at mercy. You are in control. This is the great secret, hidden in plain sight. The world will tell you that you must work harder, network more, struggle and compete and fight for every dollar. But I tell you, all of that is vanity if it is not rooted in the right assumption. You may gain the world through struggle and lose your soul in the process. But if you gain your imagination, if you learn to assume what you desire and persist in that assumption, the world is yours without struggle. This is the great secret, hidden in plain sight. The meek shall inherit the earth, not because they are weak, but because they do not resist. They assume and allow. They imagine and receive. If you're starting with nothing, this is perfect. So if today you sit in a small room without wealth, without proof, without evidence that any of this is possible, do not despair. That is the perfect place to begin. In fact, it is better than having some wealth, for the world cannot distract you with partial success. Close your eyes and go within. Begin to feel the room change around you. See yourself in a place of elegance and beauty. Hear the sounds of luxury, the quiet hum of expensive appliances, the whisper of silk curtains, the gentle bubbling of a fountain in your garden. Smell the scent of wealth, fresh flowers that are replaced daily, expensive leather, the clean air of your country estate. Let the imagined experience become more real than the one before your eyes. This is how you know you're doing it right. As you do this consistently, your inner state will change. And when the inner state changes, the outer must follow by law. You may begin to walk differently, with more confidence, more purpose. You may speak with more certainty, more authority. You may find yourself smiling for no apparent reason, feeling secretly amused by the gap between what others see and what you know. This is not delusion. This is creation. You are becoming the one who has. You are shedding the skin of the one who hoped and becoming the one who knows. The world may not understand, but it does not need to. It only needs to respond, and it always responds to the one who feels himself already in possession of the goal. In the quiet moments of each day, remind yourself, it is done. Not it will be done, but it is done. The million is yours now. You are already living from it. You are already receiving from it. You are already enjoying it. Let that be your new inner conversation. Let it repeat like a sacred song in your soul. You will be tempted to look around and measure your progress, but resist. Faith does not consult appearances. Faith remains steady, and when faith is steady, reality bends. The world is not happening to you. You are happening to the world. As you imagine, as you assume, as you persist, the world reforms itself. It may seem slow at first, but that is only because old assumptions still linger in the deeper mind. This is not magic. This is law. Be patient. Be bold. Be consistent. This is not magic, though it may appear so to the uninitiated. This is law, divine law, immutable, precise, and utterly obedient to your assumptions. The riches you desire are not somewhere out there, hidden in a vault, waiting for a stroke of luck. They are here now, in this moment, waiting for you to rise to their frequency. That frequency is belief. That frequency is assumption. That frequency is the feeling of already being wealthy. Ask yourself not, what do I want, but who must I be to already have it? And then become that person. Speak as them. Think as them. Walk as them. Live as them. If you find doubt creeping in, do not wrestle with it. Do not try to convince it, or argue with it, or push it away. Simply return to the state. Let the scene of the fulfilled desire play again. Let the feeling of the fulfilled state return. You do not destroy doubt by fighting it. You dissolve it by starving it of attention. You starve it by feasting on the assumption of the wish fulfilled. Every moment spent in the state of wealth is a moment doubt cannot exist. All power is in the present assumption, not tomorrow's hope, not next week's plan, but this moment's decision about who you are. This is your power. This is your moment. Real transformation happens when you master this. In this very moment, you may assume that you are the millionaire you desire to be. And if you will remain faithful to that assumption, if you will live from it rather than toward it, if you will persist despite all contrary evidence, the world must show it to you. It must, for imagination creates reality, and imagination is always now. So will you dare to imagine the life you desire and live from it without apology, without doubt, without delay? Will you persist when the senses say otherwise? Will you continue when the world offers no confirmation? For if you will, then the world must eventually conform to your inner conviction. Do not underestimate the power of the silence in which this work is done. You may not speak it aloud, you may tell no one, yet in the secret place of consciousness, you are reshaping the very nature of your experience. Each assumption carries with it its own pattern of life, its own quality of events, its own tone and texture. When you assume you are wealthy, the world around you begins to organize itself in alignment with that wealth. It draws to you the people who match that vibration. It reveals to you paths that were hidden from the eyes of the man who believed in poverty. But to the man who assumes wealth, every road leads to riches. Now is the time to discipline your inner speech with the dedication of a master. You cannot speak lack and live abundance. You cannot grumble about bills and expect financial freedom. You cannot complain about your circumstances and attract better ones. The law is not mocked. It gives you what you continually affirm within, whether that affirmation is positive or negative, conscious or unconscious, deliberate or accidental. So train your inner conversation to reflect your desired outcome. Speak within as though you are already rich. I always have more than enough. Money flows to me in expected and unexpected ways. Everything I touch prospers and multiplies. Your inner conversation changes everything. Say these things not like a parrot, repeating sounds, but with conviction, with feeling, until they move you, until they stir something deep within you, until they feel like the only truth you know. You do not manifest what you occasionally feel or sometimes think. You manifest what you consistently assume, what you habitually believe, what you naturally expect. So keep assuming, keep returning to the feeling. When you feel tempted to check the bank balance or count the days or measure the progress, remember that all of that belongs to the old man, the man of doubt, fear, and limitation. The new man walks by faith, not by sight. The new man smiles knowing it is already done, regardless of what the senses report. This is not denial of the senses. This is the recreation of the senses. For the senses only report what you have told them to report through past beliefs and assumptions. If you change the root assumption, the fruit must change. The outer is never cause. It is always effect. Begin to delight in your imagination. Make it a playground, not a chore. Let it be your retreat, your sanctuary, your sacred space. Feel the thrill of it. Let it surprise you with its richness and detail. I give you the technique that makes it feel real. Walk into imagined rooms, dripping with opulence. Feel the marble beneath your feet, the silk beneath your fingers. Hear the compliments of those who admire your success. Receive the gratitude of those you blessed with your generosity. Let the scenes flow not with strain, but with pleasure. This is how you loosen the grip of the old world. You do not fight it, you outgrow it. You do not struggle against it, you move beyond it through joyful assumption. Do not concern yourself with the opinions of others. They live in their own dream, and they are free to assume what they will. But their assumptions cannot affect your world unless you accept them as true for you. You must become ruthless with the mind when it offers thoughts of fear or limitation. You must say, "That is not my truth," and return immediately to the truth you have chosen. I am wealthy, I am free, I am abundant now. You must say it and feel it until it becomes automatic, until it becomes your nature, until it becomes so natural that you forget you're assuming it. Watch the quiet transformation that unfolds when you do this consistently. You will begin to attract conversations about opportunity. You will begin to notice doors opening that were once locked. You may even receive sudden gifts, unexpected refunds, surprise bonuses. These are not coincidences. They're reflections. Do not call them coincidences. They are reflections of your inner shift. The world must mirror the image you have painted within. It cannot resist, for it has no choice but to echo the reality you have assumed. Each day, Do not ask, where is it? Instead, say, it is here now, and then act as though it is. Even in the small things, how you dress, how you carry yourself, how you give, how you receive. You may not be able to do what a millionaire does in the outer world yet, but you can feel what he feels. You can imagine what he imagines. You can think as he thinks. And that inner alignment is the seed that brings the outer fruit. This truth about money will set you free. Let your mind dwell on this truth. All things already exist. The $1 million you desire already exists. It is not being created. It is already finished in the realm of the unseen. You are simply aligning with it, tuning into its frequency. And that alignment is not about hard work or moral worth or deserving. It is about state, the state of consciousness from which you operate. When you enter the state of the man who has, all things necessary to that state will find their way to you. So do not focus on the details of how it will happen. Focus only on being the one who already has it. Let yourself become the version of you who never worries about money, because money is never a concern. In 1 month, if you will live in the end, assume the reality of wealth and remain faithful. The millions will come, whether through a sudden opportunity, a gift, a forgotten investment, a new business, or a miracle beyond reason. It does not matter. The method is not your concern. The assumption is your power. Hold to it. Refuse to waver, no matter what the world says. You know the truth. Imagination creates reality. So I ask you now, will you dare to believe? Will you cast off the old man, the man of doubt, fear, and lack, and put on the new man, the man of riches, peace, and power? Will you persist, even when the world laughs, even when the senses say no? If so, then in 1 month's time, your outer life will mirror your inner conviction. The final truth is this: you are not waiting on money. Money is waiting on you. It is waiting on your consciousness to match its frequency. It is waiting on your self-concept to rise. It is waiting on your assumption to be stable. So become now the person who has it. Think as they think, feel as they feel, live as they live. Do it boldly. Do it faithfully. Do it joyfully. The law is no respecter of persons. It responds not to virtue but to vision, not to effort but to assumption. Let the world toil and strive while you enter your inner chamber and commune with the infinite. Imagine boldly, assume lavishly, and persist until the unseen becomes seen. For it must. It must. You are already that which you seek. You simply have not accepted it yet. Accept it now. Accept that you are rich. Accept that you are powerful. Accept that you are the operant power. And then walk in that assumption. For to him who has, more shall be given. And to him who dares, the world bows low. Let this month be your demonstration. Let this month be your proof. Every morning, every night, return to the state. Live in the end. Revise the day. Saturate your mind with images of wealth, sounds of joy, feelings of luxury, and then release it. Walk in peace. Act as though it were already so. And soon it will be. You will be a millionaire in 1 month. Not because of luck, not because of hard work, but because you dared to believe, you dared to imagine and persist. You dared to live in the end. And because of that, the world, this seemingly solid world, will melt and reshape itself to match your inner world. It always does. It always has. Now it's your turn to see it. The power is within you. The world will follow your lead. Go forward in this knowledge, knowing that you are not waiting for wealth to come to you. You are already living in it. Remember, the moment you truly believe, the world will make way for your reality to manifest. My friends, I want to share with you tonight a truth so profound, so revolutionary, that it will shatter everything you think you know about money. Listen carefully, for what I am about to reveal has the power to transform your entire relationship with abundance. Every time you touch money, you speak even if your mouth is silent. Every time you hold it, pass it, count it, spend it, receive it, your entire being issues a command. to the creative forces of the universe. Your assumption declares what shall be. The world has lied to you, my dear friends. They have told you that money is neutral, that it is separate from spirit, that it is a tool to be used and feared in equal measure. But I tell you, with all the conviction of one who has witnessed this truth in countless lives, money is not a dead thing. It is alive. It is consciousness made visible. Money is a servant of the law of assumption, and it listens with perfect obedience to the tone of your heart and the rhythm of your inner conversations. Most people touch money in fear. They hold it with hesitation. They count it with tension. They spend it with dread. They say, I can't afford that, and wonder why money flees from them. They say, money doesn't come easily, and wonder why their purse remains empty. They speak lack while holding supply. They declare emptiness while touching proof of the infinite abundance that is their birthright. And then they wonder why it does not multiply. But listen to this carefully. Money does not respond to effort. It responds to assumption, to feeling, to the state of consciousness you occupy. You must now treat every money moment as sacred. Every bill you hold, every coin you find, every transaction you enter. These are not mundane acts. These are opportunities for the most profound spiritual demonstration. The moment you touch money, you are standing at the altar of creation. Your assumption in that moment either multiplies or diminishes your future. Your feeling either opens or closes the channels of abundance. Do not let another dollar pass through your hands without recognizing its true nature, without commanding it from the state of abundance, without speaking the truth over it from the feeling of already having received. I say this plainly, if you are not assuming increase when you handle money, you are silently permitting loss. Because in the realm of consciousness, there is no neutral state. When you assume nothing, the world assumes for you, and the world's assumption is always lack, limitation, and fear. But when you assume abundance, when you feel wealthy, when you live in the state of already having received, then money must obey. Not because of magic, but because of the immutable law of consciousness. Let your new assumption begin today. Every time you touch money, no matter the amount, you will enter a state. Not just say words, but feel the reality of what you are assuming. You will occupy the state of one who recognizes money as divine substance. When you handle money, assume this. Divine substance cannot be depleted. I recognize this money as spiritual reality made visible, and I see it multiply under grace in perfect ways. You must not speak as one who hopes. You must feel as one who knows, because consciousness does not respond to begging. It responds to the assumption of already having received. Money is not dirty, my friends. It is not evil. It is not carnal. That is the world's doctrine, not the truth of consciousness. The great deception is this, that money belongs to man, that it is created by governments, that it is earned by toil, and lost by circumstance. But I declare to you boldly, money is God's invisible supply made visible. It is divine substance, taking form according to your assumption. It is the formless becoming form in response to your dominant mental state. There is no conflict between money and spirit, only between ignorance and truth, between the assumption of lack and the assumption of abundance. The same consciousness that gives you life gives you sustenance. The same source that breathed you into being holds nothing back from your every need. When you separate money from the divine, you strip it of its power to multiply. But when you recognize it as consciousness made visible, you allow it to flow, to increase, to serve your every good. The issue is never the money itself. It is always the state of consciousness that handles it. Do not treat money as common. Do not approach it with fear, with guilt, or with disdain. Do not say, it's just a dollar. Do not say, I hate dealing with money. Do not mock the instrument of your good. What you assume to be worthless cannot stay. What you feel resistant about cannot flow freely. What you resent in consciousness, you repel in experience. But what you recognize as divine, you multiply. What you assume to be abundant, you attract. What you feel grateful for returns with increase. Money is spiritual substance. It is a medium of exchange, yes, but it is also a mirror reflecting your deepest assumptions about abundance. If you assume lack, it disappears. If you feel guilty about having it, it withholds itself. But if you recognize it as divine substance, if you feel it as a child of infinite abundance, it will flow toward you in ever-increasing waves. Never again assume money is hard to come by. Instead, live in the feeling of this truth. God is my instant, constant, and lavish supply. Large sums of money come to me quickly under grace in perfect ways. This is not mere poetry, my friends. This is the law of consciousness in operation. When you assume this with feeling, when you live in this state with conviction, it becomes your reality. It does not matter how much money you have now. What matters is the state you occupy when you think about money. Money is like water. It flows where it is welcomed with the feeling of abundance. It evaporates where it is cursed with the assumption of lack. You must become a sacred channel through which divine substance flows freely, not hoarded in fear, not clutched in desperation, but recognized and blessed from the state of already having received. Bless every dollar that enters your experience. Feel grateful for every coin you find. Assume abundance with every payment you make. And as you do, say from the depths of your being, this money is divine substance. It cannot be depleted. It flows to me and through me under grace and multiplies as it moves. You will discover that what once seemed to escape you now remains. What once appeared delayed now arrives swiftly. What once seemed hidden now reveals itself abundantly, not because the money has changed, but because you have changed. And as your assumption shifts, so must your world. This is not theory, my dear friends. This is not mysticism for its own sake. This is spiritual law in operation. Whatever you assume with feeling multiplies in your experience. This law works with mathematical precision. It does not matter what the world economy appears to be. It does not matter what your bank account seems to show. The moment you assume abundance with genuine feeling, without internal contradiction, you open the floodgates of divine increase. The law of multiplication is embedded in the very fabric of creation. The seed multiplies when planted in fertile soil. The loaves and fishes multiplied when blessed with gratitude. The talents multiplied when invested with faith. It is consciousness delighting to express itself as abundance. But that abundance cannot enter a heart that assumes scarcity as its natural state. Most people hold their last dollar in fear. They clutch it and say, I must hold on, or I'll have nothing. But I say to you, assume abundance with that dollar. Feel wealthy with that dollar. Recognize it as divine substance containing the spiritual pattern of millions. Let me share with you the story of a woman who had only $2 remaining. The world would have called her destitute, but she held those dollars in her hands and assumed this reality. This is God's money. It is spiritual substance. It cannot be diminished because God cannot be diminished. I feel it multiplying now under grace in perfect ways. Within 1 week, $6,000 had come to her through a channel she had never imagined. Did her assumption create the money? No, her assumption of abundance allowed her to receive what was already hers in consciousness. You see, the money is never absent. It is only out of harmony with your assumption. Your feeling is your tuning fork. Your assumption is your point of attraction. Your recognition of abundance is your invitation to receive. Stop asking where the money will come from. Instead, assume from the feeling, money is here. Money is ready. Money now multiplies under grace in perfect ways. Feel this not as a hope for the future, but as a present reality. The loaves and fishes were not multiplied through worry about supply. They were not multiplied through calculating the need. They were multiplied through the assumption of abundance, looking up with gratitude, giving thanks, and then proceeding from the state of already having received. You too must approach what you have, not with the assumption of insufficiency, but with the feeling of abundance. Take what you have and assume this reality. I recognize this money as divine substance. I feel grateful for its presence. I assume its multiplication now, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. Now I give you an assumption, not as a magic formula, not as empty words, but as a divine recognition of truth. This is a declaration to consciousness, a command to the creative forces within you. You are not saying it to convince God. You are not saying it to test the law. You are assuming it because you now understand that money responds to the feeling of abundance. Assume this every time you touch money. Divine substance cannot be depleted. I recognize this money as spiritual reality and feel it multiply under grace in perfect ways. Say it when you receive payment. Assume it when you pay bills. Feel it when you make purchases, when you give tips, when you transfer funds, when you count your money, when you make donations. Assume it with the breath of certainty. Feel it slowly, deeply. Assume it like a king recognizing his treasury, like a priest blessing a sacred offering, because that is exactly what you are doing. You are blessing your relationship with abundance. You are commanding multiplication, not through effort, but through recognition. The law of consciousness hears your assumption. The universe responds to your feeling. You do not need to know the channel through which increase will come. You do not need to calculate the mechanism. Your assumption is not about logic. It is about the feeling of already having received. When you assume abundance, you shift your entire vibrational state. When you feel wealthy, you rise above the assumption of lack. When you recognize money as divine substance, you align with the infinite storehouse that is always full. Let your relationship with money be transformed. You no longer touch it with dread. You no longer feel shame when you spend. You no longer shrink when you give. You no longer fear when you look at your accounts. You assume abundance, and the assumption governs the result. Money must multiply where it is recognized as divine substance. This is law, not because of your personal power, but because of the infinite creative force expressing itself through your assumption. You are not the source, you are the channel. You are the one who assumes, and the one who assumes abundance from the feeling of already having received plenty. You must understand this with absolute clarity. If money continues to elude you, it is not because money is unfaithful. It is because your assumption has been one of lack, and consciousness has faithfully reproduced your assumption as your experience. Every idle assumption you make about your financial situation becomes a command to the creative forces within you. Every time you assume, I can't afford that, or money goes out faster than it comes in, or I'm always struggling financially, you are not describing a condition, you are creating one. Consciousness does not analyze your intent. It does not consider your mood. It simply responds to your assumption with mathematical precision. Your subconscious mind hears your every mental declaration and moves to make your assumption your reality. You may think these assumptions casually, habitually, without much attention, but consciousness receives them as absolute instructions and proceeds to fulfill them with perfect fidelity. So I ask you, what have you been assuming about your money? What have you been feeling when paying bills? What have you been thinking when looking at your accounts? What have you been assuming in conversations about your financial situation? Every assumption is a seed in consciousness, and every seed brings forth after its kind. It is time to assume differently. It is time to feel abundance where you once felt lack. It is time to recognize divine substance where you once saw limitation. Assume this when you handle your finances. I do not operate from lack. I assume abundance as my natural state. Money flows to me freely because I recognize it as divine substance. This is not denial of present circumstances. This is recognition of the creative power within you. The reality that forms next will be the one that corresponds to your most dominant assumption. Every time you part with money, you are declaring what you assume about infinite supply. Most people assume they are being diminished when they pay. They feel they are losing something precious. But I tell you the truth. You are not spending money. You are circulating divine substance. What you release with the feeling of abundance returns to you multiplied, because you have assumed the law of increase to be operating in your experience. Payment is not depletion. It is a spiritual transaction. It is proof that you assume the source of all good will replenish what you have released. Never again feel fear when making payments. Never again assume loss when bills arrive. These reactions are assumptions of lack, and consciousness, hearing your assumption, responds not with increase but with more of what you have assumed. You must now handle money as a priest handles sacred vessels, with reverence, with recognition, with the feeling of abundance. When you pay for anything, assume this reality. I release this with joy, knowing that what I give in the feeling of abundance returns to me multiplied and overflowing. This is not wishful thinking. This is the mathematics of consciousness. What you assume with genuine feeling always returns with increase. What you release in the recognition of abundance creates immediate pathways for more. Payment becomes proof of circulation, and circulation is the law of consciousness made manifest. You were never meant to hoard in fear, to clutch in desperation, to assume scarcity. You were meant to assume abundance, to feel wealthy, to command the flow of divine substance. When bills arrive, assume this. This is not a burden. This is proof that I am trusted with divine substance. I send it forth with gratitude, and it returns to me tenfold. Now your bills are no longer sources of fear. They become opportunities to demonstrate your assumption of abundance. When you pay from the feeling of wealth, you transform apparent obligations into channels of increase. Your rent becomes a declaration of abundance. Your utilities become affirmations of supply. Your expenses become investments in the law of circulation. Feel grateful for your outgoing with the same intensity you feel grateful for your incoming, because it is all one flow, all one assumption made manifest. Every visible demonstration of wealth begins with an invisible assumption. There is no exception to this law. Your riches do not begin in the bank account. They do not begin in the job, the business, or the investment. They begin in consciousness. They begin with what you assume before they appear. Most people wait to feel abundant until they see abundance. But that is not how consciousness works. Consciousness is cause, not effect. The feeling of abundance is the cause. The visible wealth is the effect. I have witnessed this truth countless times. I knew a woman who had nothing visible to justify optimism. No money in sight, no opportunities apparent, no doors opening. But she had learned the law of assumption. She would sit quietly and assume this reality. I see abundance surrounding me. I feel wealthy now. I assume that large sums of money are flowing to me in perfect ways. She would actually visualize specific amounts, feel the reality of receiving them, live in the assumption of already having them. Before any physical evidence appeared, she was living in the state of abundance. And because consciousness must externalize what you assume with feeling, her assumption became her reality. Do not wait until you have proof to assume abundance. Assume abundance, and the proof will follow. Do not say, I'll feel wealthy when I see the money. That is the assumption of lack disguised as practicality. Instead, assume, I feel wealthy now, and my wealth is becoming visible because I have assumed it to be so. Your world is nothing but the externalization of your most dominant assumptions. Scripture reveals this pattern. God calleth those things which be not as though they were. This is the divine method. Not describing the seen, but assuming the unseen. Not waiting for abundance to appear, but creating it through assumption, and living in that assumption until it becomes visible. Your assumption is your spiritual mold. When you assume wealth with genuine feeling, your subconscious mind accepts the pattern and begins to arrange circumstances to match your assumption. So assume it before it appears. Feel it while your wallet seems empty. Live in it while your account appears insufficient. Assume not to convince yourself, but to instruct consciousness. And consciousness, once instructed through feeling, begins to gather all necessary elements to fulfill your assumption. Assume this now. I see riches surrounding me. I walk in financial abundance every day. My supply multiplies both visibly and invisibly. Feel it again tomorrow, and again the next day, until your inner world accepts it as fact, and your outer world can no longer resist its manifestation. Do not jest about money. Do not mock your supply. Do not make yourself the object of poverty jokes and expect wealth to honor you. This is not superstition. This is the law of consciousness in operation. Your subconscious mind has no sense of humor about your assumptions. It records every feeling, every assumption, every inner conversation as absolute instruction. It does not distinguish between what you assume seriously and what you assume jokingly. I remember a woman who repeatedly assumed, "One day I'll be living in a cardboard box." She laughed when she said it. Others laughed with her, but her subconscious mind was not laughing. It was accepting her assumption as her desired reality and arranging circumstances to fulfill it. Soon enough, that was exactly her situation. Not because she lacked ability or opportunity, but because she had assumed her own limitation and consciousness had faithfully reproduced her assumption. You must understand, there is no such thing as a neutral assumption. There are only assumptions that align with abundance and assumptions that align with lack. When you joke about being poor, your subconscious mind assumes poverty to be your desired state. When you mock the wealthy, your consciousness ensures you never become one. When you laugh at your own financial struggles, you extend your season of difficulty. Words and assumptions are not toys. They are tools of creation. They are sacred instruments of consciousness. Use them with reverence. Use them with intention. Use them only to assume what you truly desire to experience. If you have assumed foolishly about your finances, you can change your assumption now. Feel this reality. Every limiting assumption I have made about money is now canceled, reversed, and replaced by the assumption of abundance. Then replace every assumption of lack with the assumption of abundance. Replace every feeling of scarcity with the feeling of wealth. Replace every inner conversation about limitation with inner conversations about infinite supply. Say this instead: I assume only increase. I feel only abundance. I recognize only divine provision. Let your assumptions become your wealth, and let your inner conversations become your outer circumstances. If you would see wealth appear in your outer world, you must first assume it in your inner world. This is the formula of all manifestation, the divine architecture that governs all creation. First comes the assumption, then the feeling, then the visible manifestation. All things first exist in consciousness, then are sealed through feeling, then formed in the world of experience. This is the rhythm of divine demonstration, and it cannot be bypassed, rushed, or replaced by effort, logic, or luck alone. You must become the architect of your abundance. You must enter the sanctuary of your consciousness and build not with struggle, but with assumption, not with worry, but with the feeling of already having received. You must see your wealth before the world can see it. You must feel your abundance before the world confirms it. Consciousness waits for leadership, and your leadership begins with assumption backed by feeling. Let this become your daily practice. Close your eyes and assume your wealth, not in fantasy, not in desperation, but in the recognition of truth. See yourself abundant. Feel yourself financially free. Assume your bills are paid. Your accounts are full. Your giving is generous. Do not concern yourself with the mechanism. That is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to assume the end result and feel it as already accomplished. Then assume what you have visualized. Declare it with feeling. Even if your present circumstances seem to contradict it. Even if your bank account appears to mock it. Even if the world calls you delusional, assume it anyway. Assume, I see my wealth. I feel my abundance. I recognize my infinite supply. What I assume with feeling must now appear under grace and in perfect timing. Walk as one who has already received, and stop begging consciousness for what you want. Start assuming you already have it, and let your entire being move in harmony with your assumption. Stand with the posture of abundance, speak with the voice of wealth, and move with the confidence of one who knows their supply is infinite. These are not pretenses. They are the natural expressions of your assumption made manifest. There are two moments of extraordinary power in every day: the moment before sleep and the moment of awakening. These are the sacred windows when your subconscious mind is most receptive to new assumptions. What you assume during these moments does not simply pass away. It plants itself deeply in the fertile soil of your subconscious and governs everything that follows. So I instruct you, assume abundance at night and assume abundance in the morning, not as routine, but as recognition of law. Consciousness responds to rhythm, to consistency, to the repeated assumption of your desired reality. Before you close your eyes at night, assume this. I now rest in the assumption of abundance. I see wealth surrounding me. Every dollar I touch is blessed and multiplied. I sleep in the feeling of financial freedom. Let this assumption be the last vibration your consciousness remembers. Let it echo through your subconscious mind while you sleep. Let your dream state be governed by abundance, not by fear. While you sleep, the assumption takes root. While you rest, your subconscious mind rearranges your inner world to match your assumption. And while you dream, consciousness moves unseen forces into alignment with your feeling of abundance. When morning comes, do not immediately engage with the world's assumptions about money. Do not check your phone, your email, your news, until you have first renewed your assumption of abundance. Greet your supply. Welcome the invisible wealth that is now moving toward you. Assume the same reality again with fresh feeling and renewed conviction. I wake in the assumption of abundance. I see wealth surrounding me. Every dollar I touch returns to me blessed and multiplied. I walk in financial freedom today. Touch your wallet, touch your purse, and recognize them not as mere objects, but as symbols of your assumption made manifest. There is one barrier more dangerous than doubt, more persistent than fear, more hidden than any obvious obstacle. It is guilt about wealth, guilt about wanting abundance, guilt about receiving while others appear to lack. This invisible thief of demonstration must be removed. For even when you assume correctly and feel genuinely, guilt in your heart will reject what your consciousness has accepted. You must cleanse yourself of every false belief that suggests you are unworthy of wealth, that wanting money is selfish, that having abundance is wrong. These are not spiritual truths. They are human interpretations of limitation wrapped in the disguise of morality. The truth is this: your wealth serves the highest good when you receive it through the recognition of abundance. Consciousness is not offended by your overflow. The infinite is not diminished by your plenty. Divine substance is not reduced by your abundance. When you assume wealth, you do not take from others. You simply align with abundance more quickly. You become a living demonstration that the law of assumption works. You become proof that consciousness can transform any circumstance. Feel this truth. It is right for me to assume abundance. I use money in love, and money flows to me in peace. The law of assumption never fails. It is not partial to some and not to others. It is not delayed by circumstances, economics, or opinions. It does not consider how long you have struggled or how many times you have failed. It responds to the assumption of abundance declared with feeling, backed by faith, and maintained with consistency. When you assume rightly and do not contradict your assumption, consciousness must fulfill it. Assume this with complete conviction. The law never fails. I assume my abundant supply, and it must appear under grace and in perfect ways. Let this become your unwavering assumption. Do not question how it will happen. Do not watch for immediate evidence. Simply assume and maintain your assumption until it becomes your reality. Because when you assume abundance with genuine feeling, the law of consciousness ensures that your assumption becomes your experience. And so it is, and so it shall be.